Are we live?
Yes.
Are we? I see.
We're live.
It's weird that I can't hear myself.
I know.
Well, I could hear myself, but I can't hear myself because we're always used to the microphones. But happy Monday, everybody.
You're used to the headset.
I am used to the headset. TGIM. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. We are in Florida, and I want to thank Mr. Patrick Bet-David for taking time out of his very, very busy schedule to be with us, and the entire Valuetainment team. Actually,
Yes, yeah.
You are a machine, man. We wake up in the morning, we're having our coffee, we get a alert on our phones, PBD Live, and I'm like, wait a minute, are we doing a podcast soon? And you're still in the shirt.
Yeah.
You're still. I mean, very quickly, as far as your schedule with this whole Vault conference, which is taking place in the next couple days, we got 4 days of the Vault conference. What is your schedule like right now, preparing for the Vault?
Okay, so first of all, you got a BET voice, bro. I got to tell you, you got one of those. You know what I'm saying? Like Black Entertainment, Midnight Love. He's got that sexy.
Everybody
you know.
Yeah,
he's got.
have a headset on. Pat.
Yeah. No, you got
the
that
headset.
voice. But no, it's obviously. I was saying this about you guys on how the dynamics of what you guys have done and hearing the stories on the success. But with me, yeah, I mean, my schedule is no different this week than it was last week. The only difference is right before coming here, we're about to launch a new site. We hired 15 machine learning engineers where we designed a new site that's going to tell you lopsided stories, what stories are being reported only by the left and only by the right, and you'll know every outlet, what side it's on, AI, machine learning, asking the question, timeline of a story. You can go all the way back. So this was our last meeting we have, and I just came from that. Prior to that meeting, I was getting a haircut, and I was talking to my number 3 person at Bet-David Consulting, who's hosting the event. She'll bring me up. So while I'm getting a haircut, I'm talking to her. Prior to that, I did the podcast in the morning workout. I got to go to Palm Beach to do a walkthrough today, and then it's nonstop, 16-hour days for me while I'm doing the Vault. But you got to realize, I freaking love this game. I think that's the part that people don't realize. I'm not pursuing a number. I love this game. Afo is sitting over there. Afo and I go back 33 years. I think 12, 13 years old when I first met Afo. We're going to junior high school. And when I was going to start the insurance company, I only had a meeting with a handful of people that knew I was going to do this. One of them was with Afo and Steve. We were at the DeSoto branch, that old ghetto office you guys used to have back in the days, not the stuff you guys eventually end up building. I'm at the DeSoto office, and I'm talking to these guys. And I just saw a mission. I saw a vision. I saw an opportunity. And I don't like bullies. I don't like the games a lot of people are playing in media. And my pastor, Dudley Rutherford, 16 years ago, gave a sermon talking about there's 7 mountains to climb. And the hardest and the most important mountain to climb is media. And I never even thought about media 16 years ago. I'm just like, media, why is it the hardest? Why is it the most important? Because you can influence, you can, okay. Then I'm noticing the games that are being played. All right, I like this. Let's give it a shot. And then obviously from there on, that became a little bit bigger of a play. And then today, we're building a holding company because I got 4 kids. And I'm going to go on a 40-year run, God willing. I'm building a big net with the holding company. So if later on they want to be lawyers, actors, CEOs, real estate, anything they want to do within the holding company, there's going to be something for them to do. So we can create that generational influence, business, ambition. And so the vision is a big vision.
Yeah. It's interesting you say, we're talking about your schedule and all that stuff. Alpha was actually telling us, he goes, bro, this guy's built completely different. He goes, back in the day, we'd go out, we'd party, we'd hang out with friends, Vegas, get home at like 2 a.m., everybody's sleeping in at 9, 10 o'clock. Pat's up at 6 a.m. doing his workouts. He goes, he's just built differently. I mean, what drives you to do, get up in the mornings and be like, all right, you know what? I'm running on 4 hours of sleep. I was partying last night. I don't know if you were drinking, whatever, but what gets you that motivation to kind of get up? Or is it discipline?
Man, it's a little bit of like, I wasn't the craziest, like my grades in high school, 1.8 GPA. I loved math. But I was training hardcore at the gym. It was a religion of mine. The gym was my church. That was my, Glendale YMCA. It's the first place I benched a plate. Glendale 24-hour fitness, not the nice one, the old ghetto one. First time I benched 2 plates right off a brand. You know which one I'm talking about. But, you know, I saw bodybuilding as a way of you building your body. It's similar to building a business, building anything you're doing. So that was my escape, but I was lost. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I go to the Army. I'm thinking I'm going to do 20 years in the Army. 2.5 years into it, I get a call from a guy named Kogan Alaverdian who encouraged me to get out. So I got out, and then I'm thinking I'm going to be a bodybuilder. Then I date a girl named Janvier who works for Morgan Stanley Dean with her. I start working on Morgan Stanley Dean with her. I've always loved people and I love numbers. And I said, okay, what could this look like? And then, you know, there's an element of business and competition in life where you're sizing everybody up. And then eventually, so let's just say you're beating certain people at this level, then the next level, then the next level. And each time you level up, you're not the best of the next level. And you second guess yourself. Maybe I'm not good at this level. And you're like, I think I can beat these guys. Boom. I think I can. And then the more levels you go up, I think I can, they become more formidable. But then it becomes about, if it's about money and fame, you'll slow down. If it's an obsession, maniacal obsession with a vision and a fire, the right rivals, the right enemies, the right reasons, I can't even tell you what it does to you. You know, years ago, a man named Hubert said, anybody that builds a big empire, they typically have a larger than life personality.
Hubert Humphrey,
yes, he said you have charisma, and then he said the other word. One of the ones that it was 5 of them. One of the ones he talked about was the extraordinary energy they had. He says just an energy they have that you know. So eventually, your competitors are like, yeah, I'm not going to go run that appointment. Yeah, I'm not going to work on that day. Yeah, you know what? I'm out on this one. And if you're one of those driven competitors, those moments for you are like, okay, let's see how long these other guys can last. Remember, 4 things. Outwork, but that's not enough. Out-improve, but that's not enough. Out-strategize, but that's not enough. Outlast, the most intimidating trait of a competitor. The fact that this guy's going to outlast me, these are the guys that create the most enemies. These are the guys that experience envy. These are the guys that suffocate their competitors. These are the guys that frustrate other people. Who did that? Put the category. Brady, Musk, Trump, MJ. You have so many guys that you can put on that list.
And you could factor experience in that as well. The longer you last, the more experience you have.
You would think experience is the way to go. Did you see the quote in the other building? What you guys didn't go in the other building?
No, we haven't gone to
the other building talks about that, you know, no one in the motion picture business knows what the hell they're doing. Everyone, whatever they're doing, it's pure luck. It's all a guessing game.
How so?
Who the hell knows what movie's going to fit and what movie's not going to work? If they did, why would they produce some of the dumbest movies we've ever produced? They thought it was going to be a good movie.
Oh yeah, there's been plenty of movies where
Media's the same way.
Out.
Media's the same way. Insurance, same way. What we're doing right now, how are we going to know if this is going to work out or not? What makes me know we're going to build one of the most, you know, influential, powerful, biggest consulting firms in the world? Most people don't even know what kind of a consulting firm we run. Most people don't know we run a consulting firm. Our consulting firm right now, we do engagements for 10,000 businesses from 60 plus countries. I mean, real businesses. Like when you guys go to the event, you'll see guys, you won't be in the CEO session, but you'll see guys at the main session and you'll sit there and you'll say, all of these, what are they doing here? That guy's here? Why are they here? That guy brought 117 employees. That guy just raised $200 million today. And they wrote an article about him, and he brought 67 of his employees. He came last year by himself. What did they do? Nobody has any clue behind closed doors what we're doing with our consulting firm. But I don't know what it is to run a consulting firm. The whole thing with consulting got started when I got a call one day. They email Mario. Mario picks up a call and says, this guy wants to, he asked me to do an engagement. How much is it to do an engagement? I said, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? He says, he wants to hire you as a consultant. I said, Mario, we're an insurance company. I'm not a consultant, just give him a number. Mario goes, gives him a number, comes back, says, Pat, I said $5,000 an hour. He booked 3 hours. I said, you're serious? Yeah. Is he coming by himself? Yeah. So this is not a speaking gig. No. This is just consulting. Yes. Let's see what happens. What business is he a part of? Window. Does he know I'm in insurance? He does. All right, let's see what it comes in. I don't have a format of how to do a consulting engagement with a client. So I do basic needs analysis. Tell me about your business, how long you've been doing it, how many employees, how many executives, have you raised money, what's your EBITDA, what markets are you in, what's your biggest challenge, what keeps you up at night, all these things I'm going through with them, and I write all this stuff on the board. Great. What questions do you have for me? Okay, go ahead. What would you like to ask me? He starts asking. Then we go through it. And I'm like, wow. So 2 months ago, we're at Yankees entertaining 55 of our clients. He decides to come to go to that event for us. It's a lot of money to go to it. But he's sitting right across from me. He says, Pat, him and his wife, he says, do you ever wonder how much money you've made us the last 6 years since we've been doing consulting with you? I said, I'd like to know. He says, because I'm going to tell you. You need to know. I said, how much? He said he's done around $1 million of engagements with us the last 6 years.
And this is a window guy.
This is a window guy. Complete different business than I'm in. He says, you have increased our net worth $70 million.
Wow.
Okay? So, and you know what my answer to him was? I'd like to add a zero to that. I don't have equity in his business, but I freaking love business. So to me, the consulting is one that we're having a time of our life. Podcast is just purely, now everything is integrated. Everything is feeding each other. And again, when you're saying wisdom, I didn't know any of this stuff. This is purely the mindset of a sequencing strategist. Like sequencing is, what should I do first, then second, then third, then fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10, 11. Why am I trying to do move number 22 and move number 3 and then I lose everything I have? That's the mindset of sequencing. We don't think sequencing enough. But to me, everything is sequencing.
Do what you love and you won't work a day in your life.
Not doing what you love and you won't work a day in your life. It's, like we're playing Monopoly with my kids on Sunday. And I've never beat these guys, but I go easy on them because I'm trying to see how they think. And my oldest son, I destroyed him on Sunday, pretty bad. And they don't like it. They can't stand it. But my oldest son, this is how he plays. So say you roll the dice, you're my youngest son. Here's next. Your first roll, you bought a property for $100, Connecticut, any of the guys, the ones that are here, right? Mm-hmm. He goes, before he even rolls the dice, hey, are you willing to sell that to me for $200? He's like, yeah. Did you understand what just happened right there? So of course, I just bought it for, I'll sell it to you for. So then he rolls, he bought another one. So before even one roll of dice, he already bought 2 properties, but he paid $100 more. So is it worth for him to lose $100? Because do you get what I'm saying? So then,
sorry, you were saying your younger son offered it to your older son?
Yeah.
So he's going supply demand. He's picking up stuff right away.
Yeah. So but here's what happened to it. So guess who between the two? Guess who wins and guess who loses? Oldest or youngest?
I'm assuming the younger one wins.
So the younger one ends up destroying the older one. But I told my oldest son, I said, you're either going to be the richest man in the world or you're always going to come to me for money. I said, there's not good. I said, because the way you play Monopoly is so revealing. It's just, so the other guys are kind of playing a little bit safe and they want to have a lot of cash. He's like, no, man, I want assets. Right. So it's very interesting how he's playing. But that's the sequencing part. You can be too reckless there as well, right? And you keep losing everything, or you can be too conservative. So how do you balance that out and the timing?
Yeah, where does that sequencing come from for you? Is that your insurance background with, WFG and all the mentorship that you had at WFG? Where does that come from?
I never worked with a founder there. So meaning, if I count how many hours at WFG one-on-one I spend with Rich, it's
Rich Dolly?
Less than 5 hours, okay? One-on-one, okay? Yeah. If I ask how often I work with Hubert, I've never worked with Hubert, ever.
Well, nobody did, though.
No, but what are you talking about? A lot of people
Ed
did.
Milet and
those guys did. Levitan, yeah. A lot of those guys did. They spend hundreds of hours around him. Yeah. This is how many I spent. I never spent time around Art. I never spent time around any of those guys. But what I did do is when I would sit in the rooms, there's a guy named Joe Benini, nice guy from Chicago. He had a falling out with Jeff for different reasons. But one day we're at an event. and I'm focusing on heavily recruiting instead of selling insurance. And I'm the number one guy recruiting in the business, and we go to Europe, qualify for the trip, but I'm the last one that gets on the boat. And everyone there is like, look at that guy. He did this many recruits, he's number one, but look at the amount of production he did. And I'm like, wow, I thought the feedback would be different. So Joe and I were at an event in the back. He says, hey, Pat. I said, Joe, so what happened with you, Joe? You used to do, I hear a lot of stories about how much money you used to make. You lost it all. What happened? He says, I'll tell you exactly. He says, because when I started focused on growing my agency and my production, because I was in my 20s, wasn't matching the amount of recruits I was doing, the amount of criticism I got, the mob convinced me to slow down recruiting and only focus on production. He said, never fall for that trap. Then another guy named Armando Gil shows up to our phone zone in Granada Hills. I got 80 people in my office making phone calls on Monday night from this was like the biggest thing in the country. Everybody was talking about what we would do on Monday nights. And it was very controversial because everyone would say you're making a mistake. People should be in the kitchen table presentation, selling. You're losing an entire night. The next day is training. You're losing 2 nights. Why would you waste another night? I said, no problem. I'm going to teach my guys the toughest skill set to do, which is making phone calls, because most people don't have the brass to make phone calls.
Phone calls
I'm going to give you
sales?
any kind of phone calls. We're making phone calls. So you would sit in front of me. 3 people like this would sit in front of me. Every phone call I would make, I would do it on speaker. Why would I put it on speaker? Any objection you gave, you would hear it. Oh, that's how he overcame that objection. Great. And they would give me an objection, I would put on mute. I said, watch, I'm going to overcome it. Take notes. Boom, boom. I'm live on-the-job training. So Armando comes in. Armando's like, Pat, what you got going on here, nobody's got going on in the company. He says, but I'm going to give you feedback. I said, what's that? They're going to criticize you the same way they criticize Swan. Don't fall for it. Focus on building a business. I said, okay, great. Then I went to Swan one time. We're on a cruise in his suite, and it's he and I talking, and he explained to me about, events, conferences, and, selling out events. And he says, most of these guys have no clue what it is to get people to go to an event. And he's given to me in a way like, he was more like a Chinese emperor, philosopher. He was very different. And I said, okay, good. Then I watched, and I would watch. That guy's too much obsessed with the girls, and he's hooking up with too many people on his team. This guy drinks a little too much beer and acts like a clown in front of his people. No one respects him like a leader. That guy's already retired. He's full of shit. He keeps making up stories about who he just had lunch with, and he's making it up and telling you he's going to introduce you to Arnold. He's so full of it. 7, 8 times I've caught him being full of it. I can't follow a guy like that. This guy this, that guy this guy this. And I said, okay, so the only real players here are those 3 people. Let's go, see what's going to happen. Then I stepped away. And the reason why I stepped away is I launched a script CD. And we're talking niche right now. 99% of people watching this, you guys are not going to care at all about what I'm saying right now. But I launched a CD. A lady in the company named Susan approves me to have a booth with Swan. Only the 2 of us had a booth. I launched mine. When I'm on stage, everybody wanted to know how I was the number 1 guy in the company recruiting, and they wanted to know how I made phone calls. They knew I was a phone call guy. I said, I got 5,000 CDs. You guys can go buy it. Everybody wants to go buy it. Boom. They suspended me from a Hawaii trip and decided to fine me. And I said, I'm sorry, what? Who's doing this? No problem. I said, get all the lawyers in town. I'm coming to Duluth, Georgia. So I go to Duluth. I have a meeting with one of my friends who lived over there. Then I go sit there. There's 14 people sitting in the room. President, everyone's on speaker, lawyer, general counsel. Everyone's in front of me. And I start, Veronica pulled up all the letters of approval. I said, you guys approved this, you did this, you did that, you did this, you did this. By the end of this meeting, I'm making one of 4 decisions. I'm resigning today. I'm sticking around here to be the CEO of the company one day. I'm going to go to a complete different industry. I'm going to start my own company and go compete against you guys. I said, but I'm going to make that decision by the end of the day today. I said, this is what you guys did to me. You agreed to this, then you flipped. You agreed to this, and then you flipped. You didn't want to promote because of a Facebook friend request. I said, I have a problem with this, because if you treat me like this, you're going to treat my guys like this. Then it gets very uncomfortable. They say, can we get 5 minutes? I step outside, I come back in. You can go to Hawaii. We have removed the suspension. We have removed this, We want to see you go to Hawaii. I go to Hawaii. That's when I have the face-to-face conversation with the face of the company at the time, poolside. most intense conversation. And then a guy named Scott asked me to speak from stage. I said, you don't want me to speak from stage because I'm done. I can't be at a company like this that I don't trust. 3 months later, I resigned, started my own company. They sued me after a month. I told them I have no desire to take anybody from your company. I'm not going to be a guy that's going to poach all your guys. Zero. We start the insurance company with 66 agents. I got sued a month after I started the company. 8 months later, we settled because they didn't think I had cash in a bank. And then we went and grew it from 66 agents to 50,000 agents in 50 states. And we sold the company 2 years and a month ago for almost $300 million. And I owned 88% of the company.
Wow.
And then they all sat there and said, well, we always knew he was going to make it. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Don't do that now. And I have a memory. So to me, sequencing, a part of it is also you don't offend the wrong person. There's a lot of people you can offend. Short term, they'll remember. There's certain people you
know
offend.
what I noticed? He was studying his enemy, or not his enemy. That's actually in the book. You were studying your competition. And your competition was basically sitting there, twiddling their thumbs, hooking up with people, not doing what they were supposed to be doing. And you mentioned something about scripts, right? CD about scripts.
Yeah.
So in essence, your phone calls were all scripted.
You have the skeleton, and then you have the out of bounds objections that people bring.
So it's very similar to that in real estate as well. Because when we make phone calls, when we're cold calling, door knocking, doesn't matter what it is, it's all scripted. You knock on the door, they open the door, and it has to be an open-ended question. It can't be a yes and no, because if it's a yes or no, that's it. You're done, bro. If they could say no to that question, your conversation's over. So it's like you knock on the door, they open the door. Hello, Mr. Seller. We happen to have listed a property four houses down.
Yep.
3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. It's listed for $1 million. Who do you happen to know is looking to move into the area? He can't say yes or no. If he says yes or no, so yes or no to what?
But you know what's ironic about his story? WFG, which used to be WMA, was started a similar way. Hubert left Art Williams, right? Primerica.
But he had a different reason why he left.
Yeah, the reason is different. But I'm saying the fact that WFG even existed was because Hubert Humphrey
You're right.
left Primerica, which was founded by Art Williams. And then, so you leaving WFG, starting PHP, and where you're at today. I mean, it's an amazing story, too.
Yeah, I mean, Art Williams was the big inspiration. I read the book Coach when I was in Guatemala, December 26th through December 30th, with a guy named Leo Lopez, because his dream was to go to Guatemala and visit a couple churches. We did that. And I read Coach, and then I saw what happened between Art and when he sold the company with Sandy Weil. Mm-hmm. Sandy Weil, if you don't know who Sandy is, Sandy was the godfather. Sandy was Jamie Dimon.
He was at Citigroup.
In the 90s. He was at Citigroup.
Yeah.
And by the way, you know who was Sandy's executive assistant at American Express 35, 40 years ago? A guy named Jamie Dimon. Do you know Jamie Dimon that runs?
So Sandy was his mentor.
Oh, Sandy was more than the mentor.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. He was his assistant. Jamie Dimon, who runs Chase today, who's got a $900 million art collection, who Chase transacts around $10 trillion of money every day. He was an executive assistant to Sandy Weil in the 80s in American Express. And Sandy is who bought Primerica, A.L. Williams, becomes Primerica, and then, boom, turns into what it is today. But listen, this business, and by the way Sandy fired Jamie is because Sandy empowered Jamie to run a division, and Sandy's daughter was reporting to Jamie, and guess who demoted Sandy's daughter to not get a position was Jamie Dimon. So imagine you're Sandy.
Yeah.
I'm your guy. Your daughter is now reporting to me. Okay. Your daughter's now reporting to me. I don't promote your daughter or give her an assignment. Your wife gets pissed off that I don't give the assignment to your daughter. Your wife tells you, fire Jamie, and I got fired. And then later on, Sandy says one of the biggest mistakes. But these are the things that you don't know Jamie's going to be Jamie. In that moment, he's just Jamie. Right. You don't know who you're offending. So most people think, just because you report to somebody, they think this guy thinks the biggest. You don't have any clue who thinks the biggest. That takes 40 years. That doesn't take a year, not 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. No, you never know that. And that's the part where you flirt. And there was a lot of that going on in that company. It's unfortunate because I never wanted to leave and start my own company. Those guys were my friends. I can't tell you how many places I traveled with them, had a great time with them. But God has been with us for a long time, and the decision we made in the sequencing and the timing and the way we did it, we almost lost everything. This story could be, we're not even sitting here talking because I was down to my last $13,000. AIG was about to drop my contract. I lost North American. I lost LSW. We're about to go out of business. Jen had a miscarriage. So the story could have very easily been
The opposite.
the other story. So as much as like, oh my God, what a great story. Trust me, you can ask my wife. She'll give a different version of the story of the fact that one day we lost it all.
I mean, speaking of, family and wife, is that your main motivation when it comes to running this entrepreneurship or this company that you're running? Is the family the motivation, or what drives you to actually continue to get up and just do what you do every morning?
So it's you're doing it for them, but you're leading them. It's not the other way around. Like, it's not like I won't compromise the vision. If my wife said to me, it's me or the vision, she would never do that in the first place. But we talked about that while we were dating. We read a book called 101 Questions to Ask Before You Get Engaged early on. And I had to read it on the second date, and we went through all the questions. And just the other day, we're having a conversation with our HR department. And I'm training my HR department on how to interview people better. Right now, for every 20 people we interview, we hire one person for David Consulting. And I'm trying to raise that from 20 to 40 to 1. The reason for it is because 40 to 1 means we hire more qualified people. 20 to 1 could mean that we're winging it a little bit and just giving everybody a chance, and we pay very well. So why are we doing 20 to 1? So we made it harder for these guys to get a job. And the main question we asked was the following. Here's a question that we asked to our interview process. Was, you sure you want to work for Vitamin? I do. What do you like about Vitamin? PBD. What do you like about PBD? I like the way he stands for XYZ. You ever work with him? No. You think he's the same way when you're working with him? You think it's like you come here every day to podcast? What do you think we do when we're over here in the company? Well, what do you think it's like? You sure you want to be here? You ever work for a startup? Who have you worked for? I'm interviewing a CTO last week, crazy psycho CTO. I love this guy. And great interview. He interviewed very well. I said, what founders have you worked for? And he's telling me this guy and that guy. Okay. Are you still wanting to work at that pace? You know I'm going to go 40 years. You sure you want to work with a guy like me? I'm going to text you Sundays. And I'm going to call you Saturday while you're at dinner and asking you to step away. Are you going to pick up that call? You're not going to pick up that call. Of course I'm going to pick up the call. Why would you pick up that call? What if your wife tells you, I mean, these are stuff like,
real world
it's like,
situations.
that's the part where when my wife and I were dating, she said it in front of our entire executive team. She says, I said, babe, what's the most common question I asked before we got married? She said, you kept asking me, are you sure you want to marry me? Are you sure you want to? I asked her that question almost 100 times. And she would get angry at the end. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? You think you're the only person that can work?
She felt like you were giving her a warning.
But I was telling her, I don't want you to come to me afterwards and say, why this?
Well, how long were you guys dating for before you got
Year and a half.
engaged?
But I knew her for 5 years. So she dated another guy. I had other relationships. We were single at the same time for 2 weeks only. And then I asked her out. And then we went on a date. A year and a half later, we got married.
How do you balance everything out between, you have 4 kids,
Yeah.
running 9 companies?
Within 24 hours.
I mean, because we all have 24 hours in a day. And I know how important your kids are to you, because there's one comment I remember. I have 2 boys. We're all fathers, 2 girls, a boy and a girl, and 2 boys. So one of the comments that really resonated with me was a few months ago. You said, I can't imagine not having. You were talking about Dylan. I can't imagine my life not having met Dylan, or the rest of your kids. You said, but Dylan was the example. You remember making that call, right?
I'll point one. Yeah.
That comment, I posted and I tagged you in it right afterwards, because it just resonated with me. Because as an entrepreneur myself, that's the biggest challenge, is balancing how much time do I spend on my business, how much time do I spend with my kids. Do they need me more now that they're 4 and 6, or do I need to be around more when they're teenagers, or closer to adulthood? How do you figure all that out with your schedule?
So it's funny you asked that. So I used to be like overwhelmed. Oh my God, how are we gonna do this and da 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 da. So I'm like, babe, what do you want to do, babe? So we sold a business. We're in Monaco. We're having a conversation. This is the moment where money's hitting the account. And you're like, we made millions. We made tens of millions. We've never made hundreds. It's a very big difference when you're going through it, right? And then we have that 3.5 hour breakfast. I'm like, babe, people are gonna know now you have like People are going to reach out, and life's going to change. How much is it going to change? You're going to see how it's going to change. And then we come back one day, we're going to a dinner, and this was a conversation about what are you going to be doing next? So what do you do now? What do you want to do now? Do you want to be just a person that made a lot of money and now you're just going to be home going tennis and spa and shopping all day? Because I'm not attracted to somebody like that, just so you know that. I've never been attracted to girls like that. She's like, no, what are you saying? I said, what's next for you, right? My wife's at the office 5 days a week, right next to my office. She actually loves to work, okay? And we got 4 kids. And she says, babe, I will tell you what we need at this stage. I said, what's that? We need multiple helpers at the house, 1 in the morning, 1 at night. We need a chef because your dad can't cook anymore. He's 80. So he can no longer stand and cook as much as he did before. And if you want me to help out, I can't cook for you anymore. I love her cooking and I love my dad's cooking. So I have to make a decision right there. So in our house, any day you come in, there's 3, 4, 5 people at the house doing something, okay? So that's the supporting cast there. Bring it to my oldest son is a jiu-jitsu guy, and he's a kickboxing guy. So Michael Chandler, good friend. I call Michael. Tico wants a full-time jiu-jitsu UFC guy to train with him one-on-one. No problem. Puts me in contact with a current professional UFC guy. They're training together, boom, 5 to 6:30, one-on-one training. That's what he wants to do 5 days a week. Go light it up, buddy. Today's his first day that he's starting. Dylan wants to do soccer and football, baseball. He's going to play for the Yankees again this year, but baseball's not his favorite sport. And now he wants to do Formula One, okay? And he likes to do racing, so I put him on a call with a team that's a go-kart drifting team. How committed are you to this? Do you want to put the commitment of this, but that? If you can be professional soccer, football, or Formula One, which would it be? It probably would be soccer, football, then so is it more for fun? More for fun. Okay, let's test it out. I'm not willing to put a lot of investment into it, but I'm willing to test it out a little bit to see if you're that serious about it, right? So he doesn't know what he's getting for his birthday, but he's going to get something for his birthday that has to do with racing and all this stuff. So it's that balancing act with the kids to see what they're fully serious about before we commit. And they have to show it. So you have to almost challenge them as well, where it's not a wing job. You have expectation for what they're going to be doing, right? Now bring it to business. How do you manage it all? Brother, I will tell you, when I was talking to Tommy Mottola, and Tommy and I got close, and Tommy took Sony from 800 employees to 13,000 employees, okay? And him and his wife, Talia, come to the office, and we go to lunch together. I said, Tommy, how do you go from 800 to 13,000 employees, and you're doing deal with Hall & Oates? Michael Jackson called you the devil in one of his stuff. You're doing Mariah Carey. You're doing everybody. All the biggest people, you're signing all of them. How the hell do you do all this stuff? He says, you got to make sure you pay your generals well. So he had 7 guys that reported to him. All of them are making a lot of money, $500,000, million to one of the guys or a couple of the guys are making multi-millions of dollars per year. And in that way, you can drive the vision of the company of where you're going. You can make sure you're putting your time in a place that's high return on the time you're putting. But that whole concept of overwhelming, what am I going to do with this, is are you willing to make the investments on bringing the right people in? And then last but not least, with the family is, the book, Your Next 5 Moves. When I wrote the book, Your Next 5 Moves, if you work with me closely, you would know one of the questions I first ask is that most people are startled. If you ask anybody this question, they have no clue how to answer it. They don't. Who do you want to be? What kind of a life do you want to live? What do you mean? Who do you want to be? And what kind of a life do you want to live? I don't know. Exactly. So we don't answer that question seriously. The question is really only kind of like, well, I think, maybe, I would like to. These are weak words. Who do you want to be? What kind of a life you want to live? I got clear of who I want to be and what kind of a life I want to live, and I presented it to the people that matter to me the most. Babe, here's what we're going to be doing. Kids, this is what we're going to be doing. Pops, family, this is what we're going to be doing. And they either buy in or they don't. If they don't buy in, it's no problem. Long term, enough of them will, and you pursue it. But that question to be answered, I was very clear on. The moment I got clear on that, I said, great. The rest of the stuff is an easy job. But most times, like, well, I'm making enough money. We go to Vegas once a year. We go to Hawaii every other year. We go to Europe every 3 years. We live in a decent place. I see my kids. I come home at 4 o'clock, at 3 o'clock. I remember we used to sit down with these guys. We'd have conversation. I'm not going to say anything, but they're like, hey, man, life is great. We're going from this time. We go home at, do you remember that meeting, the 3 o'clock conversation meeting? Oh, my God. What? Jama making? Yes. We're in the kitchen, if you remember that. And I'm like, oh, my, that would drive me insane, right? One time, these guys were so smart. The way they would do things, by the way, these guys. So one day, Steve and Alpha were like, hey, we're having dinner at the house. You want to come over? Do you remember that one time? So I'm like, all right, cool. Let me just finish up. So I come to dinner. I'm like, why is there like 9 people here at the, dinner? I'm like, all right. So what's going on today? No, it's so late. And then Steve poses a question. Patron, what do you think about when? Okay. But what if this happened? And what if one of the teammates? And what if this? I'm like, okay. I know what kind of a dinner this is. This is a real dinner that a lot of decisions are being made.
They're there to pick your brain.
Well, no, it was more than pick your brain. Let me tell you, these guys are very intentional guys. Steve and Affo, you know what's the great thing about Steve and Affo? Is they don't give a shit if you know how smart they are and how strategic they are. They literally don't give a shit. They're very smart and very strategic. Very, very, very. So the way they go about it, this is why we got along, okay? And then Affo has this unreasonable hospitality side to him that is very difficult to teach. One day we're at Rafi's place, and every time we go to Rafi's place, we stay till midnight, 2 o'clock. We're just playing cards, or we're shooting the shit. We're just talking, whatever we're doing. And Jen always knows, babe, I'm not coming to Rafi's place because it's not a 2-hour dinner. I said, babe, it's only 2 hours, but what are you talking about? We're just going to sit there 2 hours. So we go to Rafi's like, babe, we've been here 3 hours, and the kids need to go to sleep. Babe, 5 minutes, we're out of here. No, babe, I know it's not going to happen. Affo calls a driver, comes outside, an Escalade shows up, says, don't worry, I called the driver. I'm like, Affo, don't worry. So I'm telling you, call the driver. Gets the car, takes him to Beverly Hills. They go to the hotel. And Jen comes and says, babe, do you know who just dropped us off at the house? Who? Affo's dad. No, babe. Yeah, babe. Babe, Affo's dad. Yeah. He called his dad? He called his dad. This freaking guy, right? These are the kind of things that people do that you fall in love with their character. No, they're not only good people, but they're very strategic and intentional. So that's the part. You don't just go from building a small transportation, doing a few loads to a few thousand loads to doing $1 billion a year. That doesn't happen overnight. It's a very hard business to be a part of. And it's a tough business. Gangster, bullies, pushing around. It's a fight. But I remember all the conversations. One time they're like, we'll take you to a World Series game. Let's go to a World Series game. For 5 hours, all we're talking about is new compensation plan they're launching.
I guess you guys didn't want to pay the consulting.
They didn't want to pay the consulting. They never pay. Steve's cheap. Steve's watching. There's one thing about Steve. We know that for a fact, but they're very strategic.
They know what they're doing, bro. They know what they're doing.
They know what
We've been
they're
doing the same with Affo. We've been picking his brain during the
past,
flight.
48 hours?
During the flight.
Oh,
the hotel.
Let me tell you, you don't make the kind of money Affo's made and Steve's made, and you don't do that by luck. These guys know what they're doing.
Pat, who was your mentor growing up? Did you have a mentor?
So, mentor growing up. Okay, so if we talk like
in business specifically.
In business, so like aspiration was a guy named Luther Al-Khosei, who was an Assyrian man in the family, and I just liked the way he built his family empire.
Was that the gentleman whose house you went to?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay.
That's the one. Good memory. Yeah, that's the one that the house, I would go to once a year, and it was a dream. I'm like, oh my God, he would push his kids. He would always debate nonsense topics. Guys, today I've changed my mind. I don't think Jesus existed. Dad, what are you talking about? He says, no, this is a myth. This is a myth. There was no Jesus. I would watch his 35-year-old kids just screaming, fighting with each other, friendly, respectfully, but they're debating. And then he said, no, how do you know? Did you ever meet Jesus? Did you ever have dinner with him? And I'm like, this guy just started a fight within his own family. I'm like, but he was teaching his kids how to debate.
Thanksgiving dinner all over again, man.
Very similar to what Kennedys do, because if you ask Kennedys, I said, what was it like dinner table? It says every night was debating.
Yeah,
it was always debating, right? So he was the example that I watched. Another Syrian man named Fred Morad. I watched him very closely. And then in sales, Bally's, Cisco was very patient with me. Dexter was very charming.
Did you study Tom Hopkins?
I studied Tom Hopkins a lot, and I interviewed him. I brought him to events. I took a few hundred people to Tom Hopkins.
I remember, yeah, you did.
What about
interview.
Zig Ziglar?
Yeah.
I love Zig listening to his stories, but Zig doesn't teach skill sets in a transferable way. Zig is story. Tom Hopkins will teach you 15 things that if I teach you and I walk out, you can teach him to teach him to teach him. That's Tom.
He's the most effective sales
He is,
training
hands down.
I've
See,
ever
like Zig
attended,
Ziglar, I would listen to Zig Ziglar for motivation, but for discipline, I coached with Tom Ferry and Mike Ferry. I don't know if you know who Tom Ferry
course,
and Mike.
yeah.
So I coached with both of them. They taught me the discipline. Zig Ziglar taught you the motivation.
Zig was one of a
Tom
kind.
Hopkins was straight. For example, when I went to his boot camp, this is back when it was cassette
Arizona?
tapes. Yeah, Arizona, the cassette tapes.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I had posted that. Remember last year, I think I posted a picture of the cassettes I had of Tom Hopkins.
yeah, he had
The
the
Art
book.
of Selling Anything, or Mastering the Art of Selling Anything. This guy did a card trick where he asks you questions, and based on the questions, he almost manipulates you into picking the card he wants you to pick, the number and everything. And when I was in insurance sales,
Yeah, he was
that's
great.
exactly the techniques I would always use. Worked 100% of the time.
It's called a force, magician's force. So if I wanted you to choose, let's say, the fourth card, right? Even if you point, let's say you say pick a card, and you're picking, let's say, the one on the left, right? I would remove that instead of handing it to you. And then the third one, I would remove that. I want you to get the fourth one. So when you point, if let's say in the beginning you point to the fourth one, that's the one I'll hand you. So I know where it is. I'm just forcing you to choose that.
Yeah.
One way or another.
It was a method like that he would use. But
Same idea.
those guys in WFG, I would say Rich played a very big role. John played a role. Jamie was very systematic.
I was under John Shin
You were?
in Tarzana, yeah, with Matt Fletcher.
What do you? Oh wow, my God! Do you guys know the Matt Fletcher story?
I was telling Mario the
Do
story.
they know the
yeah.
story?
Well,
Let me tell you, this guy was born on October 31st.
Halloween.
This guy
baby.
was a very interesting. So was John, by the way. Both he and John are both October 31st.
they?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I don't remember.
they're
that
born on
birthdays.
Halloween. Yeah, and so Matt was a guy that. Well, I mean, it's a dark story. If you want to go, I don't want to go there, but it's a dark story. What this guy ends up doing, he ends up recruits a cop, hooks up with the cop's wife. Him and the cop's wife sell a $2 million policy to the cop, and him and the cop's wife end up killing the cop to collect $2 million insurance policy.
He didn't even need the money. That's
He
what
didn't even
shocked
need. He was
me.
living in a 60s. So you remember Jim Page, Rick? So you remember Wes Ferry? Yeah, you remember
Yes,
all
yes,
these
I
guys? Yeah,
remember,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they
that
were-
was yes, the part, man. You got to be careful with this business and who you're learning it from, because there's a lot of
There's a dark side to it, man.
yeah,
Jesus
a lot of weird.
But and Matt had this every time he'd do presentation, he had this shoulder movement, like when he
Was
was
it a
on
twitch?
stage. No, he
Yeah,
just.
Tourette's or something.
By the way, he's one of the smoothest guys.
Oh yeah, he was.
I've never met this guy. I've never told
Oh, you never met him?
Never met him. I only saw videos.
He was our VP.
Yeah, I never met him. Never met him.
Very quickly, going back to what we were talking about as far as kids and stuff. See, Armand was mentioning it. I got a boy and a girl. He's got 2 boys. Joe's got two girls.
girls.
So,
Well, one of mine is transitioning, so
we'll get to the transitioning part as well. Don't worry about that with the hormone blockers and everything. But for me, and I think the guys could vouch for this as well. Kids are our motivation. Everything we do for them, and it goes back to what our parents would say. Both Armand and my parents were from Iran. They immigrated to Armenia. Joe's an American boy, but my parents living in Iran, Armand's parents living in Iran, they experienced the Shah, and then they went to Armenia. They lived in Bolshevik Armenia, and then we left communist Armenia, came to the United States to have a better life. And the one thing that my dad would always say, and it resonated very well, was everything I do for you. I'm not going to take any of this crap with me. So the buildings we buy, the real estate we invest in, the mutual funds that I open, everything is for you guys. It's not for me. And as when we were kids, for us it was kind of like, let me go out and do this, let me go out and do that. Pops will take care of me. Now that we're adults, we have children, we realize what our parents actually meant, where it was like everything we do for you. And Armand was mentioning, with your son Dylan, you were like, I'm glad I met this guy.
I
With
can't
my
imagine
kids,
life without having met you.
I'm
Yeah,
like that with
yeah.
with both my kids. It's like I can't imagine life without these kids. Today during your podcast, you were mentioning something about the
John Cena.
John Cena not having children and how he says, I don't want to have children. Is that where society is headed towards? Because what's happening right now, and we've noticed it a lot, it's being shoved into our faces. From Honda commercials to Zillow commercials. And I'll tell you about the Zillow commercial. I don't know if you've seen that one. But there was a Honda commercial where it was a couple driving through the city. And they're driving through different balloons. One was like a financial balloon. Another one was like a party balloon. Another, like it was like different balloons that they were popping through. And this couple drives to this one last balloon and it says marriage. And they stop and they look at each other. And what do? They turn, as in they don't want to go through that. And I'm noticing less and less people in society, especially in the United States, are having less and less kids. Is it because of the cost of living? Because you guys didn't mention that today.
Yeah, we did.
Did you really?
Of course we did. We talked about how the next story we went to, yeah, of course. We talked about how each child 18 years ago used to cost $245,000 to raise from 0 to 18, and that number is now $350,000. What's 20 divided by $367,000 to have each kid. So if you have 3 kids, that's roughly $1.5 million. You're spending $60,000 a year of post-tax money on 3 kids, $80,000 of pre-tax money to raise 3 kids. The average person can't spend $80,000 pre-tax money to raise 3 kids. So the economy side is challenging. And I know you're a diehard Newsom guy. In the state of California.
I mean, does a shirt?
Yeah. In the state of California, your auto insurance just went up 54%.
Just auto insurance, Pat?
Auto insurance, well, everything, but auto insurance, June of 2023, rolling 12 to June of 2024, rolling 12 is up 45. By the end of the year, California's auto insurance will be up 54% full coverage versus nationally is up 28%.
Pat, you know what's one of our biggest struggles in real estate right now? Getting homeowners insurance.
I know, because of the FAIR Act. You know what the FAIR Act's going to do? Are you following that closely with FAIR Act?
Tell me which part of the
Okay,
FAIR Act?
so first of all, I don't want to digress on the question you're asking about kids. You want me to stay on this? Because
Let's stay on the kids and then
then come back to the California FAIR Act, because that's a whole different conversation we'll have.
Yeah, because that's
for sure.
Completely
stay on the kids. Go for it.
John Cena was saying that, and being the pretty successful guy he is, Hollywood star, WWE wrestler, he's saying he doesn't want to have kids, and he mentioned something about him not having a relationship with his father. Do you think it is that, him not having a relationship with his father, or do you think it's just society in general pushing this narrative of having less and less children?
I think if you go back, and we pulled up the numbers, in the 60s, the world was averaging 5.3 kids per. Then we went to 3, then we went to 2.3 today, right? 3 years ago was 2.3, and America's at 1.6. Japan's at 0.7. Japan's a sexless society. In Japan, sex is not even an important thing in Japan. Think about it. If you Google Japan, sexless society, look at the numbers in Japan. It's not a priority to have sex in Japan. So 0.7 is how many kids they're having. That's catastrophic. China tried to do the one-child policy. They royally screwed up. And then, so that's one demo of people not having kids has been gradually going the last 60 years.
And going back to China, China is now encouraging people to have children.
Of course, yeah. And South Korea is given a $28,000 bonus if you choose to get married and have kids. South Korea is given a bonus saying, hey, get married, have kids, here's $28,000 or $38,000. You can Google and look it up.
Hear that, guys? If you got an Asian fetish, go to South Korea.
That's right,
you get a
South
nice
Korea.
Bonus.
But the question about this with the family thing is, faith. Like faith in God, values, principles. How important is that today? Is it growing? Is it declining? What happened with the feminist movement? If you go from the 60s, what started in the 60s? LBJ, the policies he came up with, giving tax incentives or welfare to mothers that are having multiple kids, where mothers eventually are like, why would I even get married? Yeah. I make more money being single with 6 kids than getting married. It's expensive for me to get married to you. I'm just going to stay single and have my 6 kids. The government's sending me money because of LBJ. So the incentives were all out of whack. So feminist movement, I'm better than you. Men are the enemy. And last year 2 years ago at the vault, something very crazy happened. This Persian girl, they're going to be there this year as well. this Persian girl, after day one, the next day, everybody goes home the first night and they do a personal identity audit. It's a list of questions you got to go through. And by the way, the event's very interactive. So it's not like you just sit there and take notes. We do case studies. It's a very, very interactive event. So the next morning, everybody wakes up, comes in, boom, let's go. Okay, what breakthrough did you have yesterday? Boom, 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 boom. One girl's going like this. She's now raising her hand. Persian girl with her sister. Eventually, the sister's like, Pat, ask my sister, come on. And she gets up. I said, what's up? What breakthrough did you have? She said, Pat, this is kind of tough, but I'll tell you, my entire family, when you think about me, I make the most money. I take care of everybody. I drive a nice car. I have a very good business. I live in a beautiful place. But my enemy has been men my entire life because I wanted to beat them.
Oh, well.
I no longer want to beat them. I want a husband. I want to be a wife. I want to have kids. Boom.
How old was she?
38.
Oh.
The breakthrough to have then. By the way, good for her. At least she's not 58. Imagine how many of these people that signed up to this feminist movement that no longer are 60 years old. They're like, biggest mistake of my life. I don't have any kids. What is life all about without living kids? So a part of it is feminist movement. A part of it is LBJ. A part of it is conservative values. A part of it is the selfish movement, living for me, 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 me. A part of it is from the top. Like for me, for the last 4 or 5 years, 3-4 years in my insurance company, if you're at any of my conferences, you'll hear what I tell everybody. Are you going for 6? No. But what are you going to go for? 2. You can't go for 2. Because the wrong people are having a lot of kids and the right people are having too few kids. What do you mean 2? 4's got to be the number. Go for 4. No, but you don't understand. I'm old now. Stop making excuses. A guy today, okay, I'll show you his picture. He sends me the text. He says, please tell Adam and Vinny this. It's never too late. He sends me a picture. His name is Alan Town. He watched me give a speech about that you ought to have 4 kids. This guy doesn't have any kids. You know what he does? He just turned 60 years old. Tomorrow's his birthday, 60th birthday, and his baby is 4 weeks old.
Oh, man.
Okay? He had a kid at 59 years old, about to turn 60 years old tomorrow. What else is the purpose of life?
Well, honey, we're coming home for number 3.
Yes, all the wives are going to be running away from.
My wife can't say it's too late.
Hey, listen, we all have 2 as far as the 3 of us. Let's see who's bringing number 3.
Well, by the way, I'm actually being serious with you. So to me, someone needs to sell the dream and the vision from the top to go back to having 4, 5, 6 kids. Look at religions, Muslims. They're having a lot of kids. Wow, what happens if all of a sudden they're going to because they're having more kids than you?
Well, so they're expanding everywhere.
Yeah, of course.
You look at Europe, them opening up the borders in France,
That's
in
right.
Germany. It's an influx of Muslims going in. And what are they saying? To your face, on media, they're saying, we are expanding. We are having more children. In Canada, there was that one guy.
You know who else is doing
that? They were
that?
interviewing him. He said, we're going to have more kids.
We're going to bring Sharia law into your country.
Yes.
And there's nothing you can do about it,
Yes.
he said to the guy in
Yes.
Canada.
I
Yeah.
saw that one.
But look at Mormons. Mormons have a lot of kids. Christians don't have a lot of kids. Mormons have a lot of kids. So it's not like, why do Mormons have a lot of kids? I guarantee you the stake president from the top talks about having a lot of kids.
They don't
Do
believe in
you think it's an
contraceptives,
agenda?
though.
Because when you go back in time, when you go back into the 50s, the American dream was husband and wife.
Yeah.
They have the children. They have the home, the 30-year mortgage. The cost of living was super cheap. Dad works for 30 years, pays off the house. Kids leave the house, empty nesters. You retire off into the sunset, right? Now it's more of a, how can we get the mother out of the house? How can we set up life where you can't live off of one income?
It's as if by design.
Because what it was dad would go to work. He was the breadwinner. Mom would help raise the children. Dad would come home, spend time with the kids over the weekend or, after work. And that was the American dream.
Was it though? Let me ask you, why don't you go prior to that? Go 1905. We were working 70 hours a week in 1905. What do you think husband and wife were doing in 1900s, 1800s, 1700s? What were they doing? They were all running a small little business together.
But the advertisement was the American dream in the
Hang
50s.
tight for me here. Watch what I'm saying to you here. They ran a business together. They ran something together. You ran the farm together. You worked together.
But it was together. Yeah.
It was together. For hundreds of years, we've worked together. Hundreds of years, we worked together. Do you know my insurance company, PHP? You know right now, home office, who runs it? Maral Keshishian Bekian and her husband, Tikran Bekin, husband and wife. She's the president. He's the VP of distribution.
Yes.
Husband and wives. So we were all about working together, right? And that was we're building something. And by the way, boys spend a lot of time with dads. And then all of a sudden, boys got soft because boys spend a lot of time with their mothers. And I made a recommendation of a book 6 years ago called No More Mr. Nice Guy. I'm not even going to get into it. But it's an inside joke between, it's a completely different conversation. But if you read No More Mr. Nice Guy, don't immediately make some decisions for a few months. But it's actually a very good book. But you got to read it very gently when you go through. It's called No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Because when you're mentioning 1900s, 1800s,
Yeah.
1700s, right?
Yeah.
Men and women had different roles. Even if you go back to the caveman era, it was when we were hunters and gatherers, right?
Yeah.
Men would go out and hunt, women would gather. So they all had certain roles.
But then eventually the boys would hang with the father to also learn how to be survivors.
Correct.
Boys no longer hang out with fathers. They spend time with mom till 18 years
Mama's
old.
boys.
Well,
So
they're
they
becoming
become-
softer.
That's exactly the point. That's the reason why this guy wrote that book, because boys became way too soft. And fathers are like, no, we're not doing that. So for me, my wife's at the office with me 5 days a week. You know how many wives like it when I say that? You know why they don't like it? You know what they say? Elis xavesi. Oh my God, every time you say that, my husband comes back and says, how come you don't work at the office? Do you know how hard it is to raise these two kids? And that's the excuses they make. And guess what I say to those wonderful Armenian mothers who say that? Your boys need their fathers to be tougher. Find a way to work together. Find a way to do something together. And by the way, by choice, FYI, if you say, honey, I want you to start working with me on a daily basis, then your wife can make some asks to you. Really? No problem. Then I need help with XYZ. Great. So it's the vice versa. It's not just like this. So
we're fortunate enough to have the grandparents around. So when we were flying out to Florida,
Newman.
absolutely,
Yeah.
flying out to Florida, I made one phone call to mom.
they're with the kids.
I said, Mom, Elle's going to work. My wife, Elena, Elle's going to work 6 in the morning. She's a registered nurse. Can you be here at 6 a.m. to watch the kids while they're knocked out?
Yeah.
And, the boys are going to pick me up to come to the airport without hesitation.
Yeah.
She was there at like 5:45. And we're grateful for that our parents are there to help us. Now, if mom and dad weren't there, I think if you're not fortunate enough to have that, the grandparents to help out, or you're not fortunate enough to hire a babysitter, husband and wife have to collaborate together.
My wife and I work together.
I love it.
We have a travel agency, with Destination Wedding Company. So she actually handles everything. We're probably one of the only ones that provide a private jet to your destination for your wedding. And it costs less than throwing a wedding in Glendale, for example.
See, the problem is less and less dads are involved with their kids'
Right.
lives nowadays. And I say this to a lot of people. I
Yeah.
say, listen, if you got kids, you're the dad, stop being that macho
Gotta be
man.
involved.
Stop being that macho man. Be the dad that those kids need. Be there for them. Help, especially the boys, bro. Help raise your boys so they'll be masculine. They'll be strong. Don't be that guy that's like, mom will raise them. The schools will raise them. No. Especially the public school system.
Especially the public school.
Especially the public school. You want to,
GUSD would be an example.
you want to be the one raising your kid. You don't want some Joe Schmo raising your kids.
I prefer the school to raise my kids. Don't let public schools rate. Yeah, but see, the only issue with also grandmas is obviously they fulfill the role of babysitting and all that, but grandmas don't do a great job at especially raising boys.
Old school grandmas do. Because remember, look, especially our grandparents, living through Iran, living through Bolshevik Russia, those grandmas are tough, man.
They're tough, but not when it comes to grandkids, because a grandma's job is to spoil the grandkids. It's not to discipline them. Same thing with a grandfather, but grandfather's not as much.
That's where pops comes in.
But that's why even with grandmas, you got to be
this guy's
cautious.
insight.
My
kind of a guy right here, what he's saying. No, but listen, Brooklyn, who's the best? Brooklyn would throw you under the bus in a heartbeat. Brooklyn's like
She's 2?
she's 3 now.
Oh,
so
3 now, okay.
she says, Daddy, yeah, baby, I ate the food. Watch what Melva gave me. M&M's. And I'm like, Melva. And Melva knows she effed up because I'm like, Mama, stop giving this kid so many candies. My dad. and I see Brooklyn will come, and my dad's 82, and she's 3. Brooklyn will go, shh, shh, shh.
Oh, shoot.
And I'm like, what the what's... So then I see my dad gets up, and like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, the way he walks, quietly. And then I see she's following, and she goes, shh, shh. So then I'm like, let me follow through to see what they're doing here. They go, and she got a lollipop on a freaking weeknight. I said, Derek, move at it. Papa, move on it, Odin. Like, what do you want me to do? I said, don't give her candy every freaking day, right? So there is a little bit of that on what, but grandfather to grandsons, he is tough with those guys. Like, there is no mercy with them. He's like, no candy, none of that stuff. He's challenging them. No, I think there's a part of it that, husband and wife have to sit down and ask what kind of kids they want to raise. My wife right now is going through a book called Raising Up Girls. She just wrapped it up by James Dobson. There's another one called Raising Up Boys. It's a phenomenal book to read. As you're going through, there's a lot of things you need to teach them. And it's a very weird time nowadays if you're not openly talking about stuff with them. But I think fathers play a very, very important role in raising up tougher boys. I don't think we're doing enough of that right now.
Yeah. We mention it all the time. We always say it. Fathers be involved. Fathers be involved. And, going back to June of last year, June 6th of last year, and you were semi-involved in this, which we'll get into. Glendale Unified School District was hosting a board meeting, and we encouraged all fathers to come out and see what's actually going on. And it was surprising to us because Armand and I, and in fact Joe as well, we were very involved into what was going on, from sitting down with board members, doing school walks with the superintendent, and we encouraged parents and especially fathers, come out, come see what's actually going on. Mm-hmm. Come see Antifa there. Like, because Antifa was like, we actually thought these guys only existed on TV.
Hell, I got arrested.
Yeah, Joe was arrested, but we thought this was only on TV. We're like, bro, these guys don't really exist. Long and behold, they're in Glendale. They may not be Glendale residents, because one of them was actually arrested, who lived in Sun Valley, who had a, what was it? He was a pedophile, or he was a sex offender.
Tahunga.
Yeah, he was a sex offender, and it was finally an aha moment for the dads to realize that look who's here, look who's trying to raise your kids, be involved. And you mentioned something about coming out to Glendale, hosting an event. What happened there?
Yeah. So
why was that put on pause? Because we were excited. We were excited about it.
No one was more excited than me. But let me tell you what happened. So we're on a call, and I get guys that reach out to me from the Valley. I get guys that reach out to me from Tarzana. I get guys that reach out to me from LA. I get guys that reach out to me from Newport. Why don't we do a big one instead of a small little place? So we first reached out to the hall off of Brand.
Alex Theater.
The Alex Theater. So we call Alex Theater. Owned. Alex Theater says, we're not going to have you here because we know it's going to have Antifa and all this other stuff. Then we call Red Lion, which is Hilton, where I got married. Mm-hmm. And we're going to rent the whole thing and do the event. No, we can't have that kind of drama here. So we called all these hotels. And then we had a wedding hall that could fit 200 people, whatever the number was, 200-300 people. 500 people.
Not Taglia.
But it had a parking issue in the back. And we didn't know what the internet was going to be like to do that to wedding. Because when you're doing podcasts live, you need strong internet. I'm not going to be doing on a regular internet line.
Dial-up.
So then I called my pastor who runs Shepherd of the Hills, Dudley Rutherford. And Dudley said, come do it here. 3,500 people I could fit there. So I said, guys, I want to do it here. Nope. We just want it to be Glendale. I'm like, once the fighting happened, I said, I'm out. I'm not messing with this.
This is becoming more of a too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
They were all fighting amongst each other. I said, guys, I am traveling 12 hours, 6 hours to come to you, 6 hours to come back. I'm not asking for anything for me to come out. This is what you guys are doing. I'm out of this. Don't bother. Hey, can I get some campaign contribution? No problem. Here's a few $1,000s, but I'm not coming to Glendale. And I was out.
That's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
No problem.
But it's an ego trip.
But to me, I wanted to say that it's not only happening in Glendale. I wanted to show where the follow-up would be Newsom having to show up. I wanted to show a room of a few thousand people where Newsom has to answer to a few thousand people driving from everywhere to get that kind of eyeball. See, they said, no, we just want to do it in Glendale.
The issue here is this. The ego is the biggest issue. That's number one. We've been trying to get you on the podcast for quite some time, from our old studio to the new cigar lounge that we have. And it almost happened. It almost happened when you were in LA. You were like, can you guys come out to Beverly Hills? I was like, dude, Pat, it's practically possible. And you're like, is this Armand? I'm like, no, this is Arno. You're like, okay, so who's Armand? I'm like, Armand's the other guy. And we almost made it happen. But for us, it was like, dude, if it's going to happen, we have to make certain sacrifices. And then finally, when, thanks to Awful was like, guys, here's an opportunity. Pat wants to sit down with you guys as well. He's down to do it. Let's make it happen. But we got to go to Florida. It's a no-brainer. When
are we getting the flight?
Yeah. Do you tell us, Awful, you tell us when, how, we'll do it. Having somebody of your caliber come to your home city, whose home city it is as well, and speak on behalf of what's going on, you have to put ego aside. Because the platform is there to not only resonate it locally, but nationwide.
Yeah.
Chino Valley was going through this shit. Sacramento was going through that stuff. Glendale was another.
Everybody was willing to drive down.
Do you see?
Everybody was willing to drive down. If you remember the 2 videos I did on Instagram, one of them got 1 million views, and you should see the DMs I got from who was willing to participate and be a part of it. By the way, majority was going to be Armenians, because I'm Armenian. Of course, the Assyrians would show up, but then you had a bunch of my insurance guys. Lexus showed up. Lexus like, we'll be there, no problem. Antifa's going to do nothing. Everybody was in. But we wanted a bigger haul. And by the way, this doesn't mean I won't do something in the future. I don't want, like right now, we're talking to CAA about doing a PBD podcast tour in the battleground states. So Pennsylvania, I want to go to Michigan. I want to go to Dearborn. Like, that's not a place to go to where it's safe for a guy like me to go. But I want to go to Dearborn. We want to go to D.C. and do we were going to do
blue states.
We were going to do a podcast in D.C. in Ford Theater. Ford Theater said no. We just asked them last week. Ford Theater is where Lincoln got. So they said no. So we're looking at what we're going to be doing to go to some of those places. But for me, I think Newsom needs to be challenged and pushed a little bit. They were so close. Tipping point. But then they balked. And I think it was a missed opportunity.
Do you know when he came supposedly to meet with the parents and whatnot? That was all under
Staged.
the radar and staged.
Bro, we reached out to the superintendent, and we said, because you and I were doing the walks with the superintendent, going from school to school, seeing what's actually going on. We reach out to the superintendent and we say, well, why didn't you tell us that Newsom's coming into GUSD?
It's just a photo op. It wasn't what you think.
Of course, it was
like
a photo op.
So she says, encampments right now.
So which we'll get into as well. But she says, "Oh, I just found out today." Bullshit. I mean, he's coming there for a photo.
Now imagine
op.
if we have a few thousand people show up.
Exactly.
Imagine if a few thousand people show up.
Pat.
We do a live event, and there's protesting outside, and everybody's holding stuff with Newsom, California. You have to answer
Pat,
to that.
The issue here is they're silencing the majority. We are the majority.
They're making
the minority is making a louder voice. Anytime you want to set up something to counter protest what they're doing, they shut you down right away. They shut you down in Glendale, right? And what did they do?
Alex Theater in Hilton. You were part of it when we talked. Both of them said no.
Well, the Alex Theater is owned by the city, so that's easy for them to shut you down. But it's unfortunate that
Hilton. I got married at that Hilton. Like, you used to be Red Line. Like, what are you doing? This would be a great story. And by the way, I did Mario, what was that event we did at the Hilton off of Glen Oaks, where we had the Breast Cancer Awareness Month? We had 1,700 people there. God knows how much money we raised for Susan G. Komen. That's what it was. We hosted it. Jennifer hosted the event with our ladies. So 1,700 people showed up. We raised a few $100,000. We did it at that Hilton. And they're like, no
issues.
No, we put classy events together. No, but this would be, they didn't want that event to happen for many reasons. It is what it is.
Well, it's unfortunate that our school board, the Glendale Unified School Board, it's 5-0, meaning 5 Democrats, 0 Republicans. And you don't want to get politics involved in a school board, but unfortunately that's what it's become. School boards used to be your grandma, the aunt, the uncle, the mom, the locals.
Right.
Now it's become very politicized. Everybody's on that ladder trying to make it up. And you get people promised certain positions. For example, one of the school board members was promised a city council position. He's trying to make it up into up the ladder in politics. You have local council members promised political positions at the Senate, in the Assembly. I mean, that's what it's become. Everything.
What percentage of Armenians in Glendale are conservative?
I would say majority of them.
I'd probably say
we have what out of the 220,000 residents, probably about 80,000 are Armenians,
roughly.
right? So probably a good 50 plus thousand of those.
So 50-30. So 60. Okay, got it. 60%.
60%,
65%. Got it.
And it's surprising because we're ethnically, right, culturally, we're conservative. And we've lived, a good portion, majority of us have lived under Soviet Armenia. So we've seen what it's like to wait in line for bread, to wait in line for butter, to not be able to buy meat because there's only 4 cuts available that day, so only 4 families get to eat meat that week.
And that's just Soviet Armenia. And then you have the Khomeini Armenians as well, the Armenians that lived under the Muslim, the Muslim regime.
And yet, we're not willing to stand up for our kids. I mean, you guys always discuss this, right? What subject, what category are you willing to die on the hill for, right? If you're not willing to die for your kids, then what's gonna move you? I mean, is it gas prices? That's what's gonna move you? Is it the cost of milk?
Well, let me ask you, what's the has anybody, are Armenians so locked in that they cannot leave that state? Like, are Armenians owned by the state of California? Like, are you guys that?
It's the community that's so hard to leave.
Like everyone has their parents there.
See, Pat, let me bring this example to you. Being in the real estate industry,
Yeah.
my majority of my work is in the Glendale area, Glendale, Burbank, surrounding Tri-City areas. When you venture outside of Glendale, Burbank, and you start showing Armenians houses in Granada Hills, Porter Ranch, Simi Valley, Chatsworth, you know what's their excuse? They say, and I'll say this in Armenian, I'll say it in English, Herua, it's far. Far from what? Well, it's far from the Americana, from the Glendale Galleria. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? I'm like, do you live at the Americana? Do you live at the Glendale Galleria? It's called commuting. Just you drive there.
Yeah.
You take your life and you just move it somewhere. Mind you, we've become comfortable where we are.
What do you think will be the tipping point where Armenians will be like, I'm out? What's the tipping point? Because it seems like nothing's moving you guys.
Believe it or not, I'm getting to that point.
I don't think there's going to be a tipping point. There won't be a tipping point.
You're saying that, man.
No, because, look, tipping point is we were begging parents to show up to the schools, right? Our kids didn't even go to those schools we were attending with the superintendent.
Well,
sorry, yours did. And talking to parents like, why don't you come? Your daughter goes to so-and-so school, right? It's nervere chunam. I don't have time for that bullshit. Oh, so we're going to take time out of our work to attend your kid's school to fight for you, plus get criticized for doing so.
The spies. We were the spies.
They were claiming, oh, you guys are spies. You think your school administrators now showing up to meetings for us? No, we're showing up so we could understand both sides to mediate it properly, right? So if that was not a tipping point for parents to show up, because they were like, there's no transparency when we go to school board meetings. We speak, they're not allowed to speak.
They're not allowed to respond.
We suggested to the superintendent, we said, Vivian, let's do coffee with the superintendent, invite all the parents of every elementary. She agreed. We did it. That was not even a tipping point. So
nobody showed up.
Exactly. So when you say tipping point, are we getting there?
Who's the influencer that's left? Who's left? And I'm talking last 2 years.
That's left?
That's left.
From the Armenian community?
Armenian influencer in Glendale that's left in the last 2 years. 2 years.
I mean, who do we have Armenian influencers?
By the way, when I say influencer, I don't mean famous. I'm saying the guy that has 300 employees who's out. The guy that was the owner of this building that has 400 units that left. Anybody like that that's left?
Nobody's come to the top of my head.
So,
because I've had clientele where he's called me up. He said, Arno, you know that house we bought a couple years ago? Yeah. All right. I need you to come by. We're selling it. Okay. First question I asked. Fantastic. Where are we moving to? He's like
above Kenneth.
Yeah, above Kenneth. He goes, I'm going to Texas. I'm like, you're going to Texas? What the fuck is in Texas? He goes, bro, I'm done. And this was 2011.
Yeah.
He goes, I see it coming. It's going to get worse.
Okay, so he left or he stayed?
He left.
Okay.
I sold his house.
So-
He left to Texas.
So, okay. So, but stay with me here. So, no one's yet leaving. People are still staying there. You know what Armenians remind me of? Very simple. Stephen A. Smith calls out Kamala Harris. You know Stephen A. Smith from ESPN.
course,
Calls out
ESPN.
Kamala Harris. Me, him, and Cuomo had dinner last Friday night at Casa D'Angelo. Okay. And I said, hey, man, I like how great of a spokesperson you are for Kamala. Ha, 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 ha. He starts laughing because he really threw her under the bus. You're still going to vote for her. Okay?
Stephen.
Of course. You're still going to vote for Stephen A. You're still going to vote for her. So the Democratic Party owns blacks. They own them. The same way Glendale in California owns Armenians. You guys are owned. You're owned by Glendale in California. You have to wear a shirt that says California Newsom owns, and then put an Armenian flag, okay? They own us. And why is that? Let me tell you. When we were first moving away from LA, I knew the hardest people for me to have go with me to Texas was Maral and Tikran. Toughest one, because the mom's an amazing mother. Like, she is like, I love Maral's mom, right? And Tikran's family, going to their house, father, mom, just David, the family. I love that family. The sister Rita, Maral's daughter, Maral's sister. And so I said, Naeed, your daughter's going to be like, hey, Maral, we're moving to Texas. Oh, oof. I'm like, guys, we're moving to Texas. So her and my wife would get together like, Pat, we can't have Pat move to Texas. Jennifer, what do you think? So they would team up like, babe, I'm from Houston, Texas, and I don't want to move to Texas. I said, babe, we're moving to Texas. So anyways, eventually the family comes up. Why are you moving my daughter away to Texas?
Oh, shit.
I said, trust me, you're going to move too, okay? I'm telling you, you're going to move too. So eventually we moved to Texas. For the first 3-4 months, Tico is finishing his degree, and he's in Glendale, while she's in Dallas, Plano, living with Tom Ellsworth. So they don't see each other every day. She's pregnant, living with Tom Ellsworth. They moved to Texas. They found a church. They got 2 kids, one on the way, and they have found their Armenian community. They're very happy there. And now families possibly considering moving out. Watch this. You know where Armenians would love? Boca Raton.
Where's that?
Boca Raton may be the safest city in America and Florida. It's 30, right? By the way, when you guys go to Palm Beach tonight, exit Boca Raton, okay? When you exit Boca Raton, I'll tell you where to go with Boca Raton. It's not one of the safest cities in America, okay? I think it's the city with the most $10 million home. If not, it's in the top 5 of most $10 million homes, which means there's a super wealthy community, a Waldorf Astoria that Michael Dell just bought and turned it into the sickest resort. Put a few $100 million into it. You got the super wealthy community that if you want to buy like a 30, 40, $50 million home, you have that area. Great private schools. It has the Americana community. It's got a big-ass mall in Boca Raton. We lived in Boca for 5 months. Great school and around. Christian schools, conservative
What's the average
schools.
house price there?
The west you go, you can find homes for nothing. East is water. West is cheaper. So you get to decide.
The further you get from water,
yeah.
the cheaper it becomes.
The further you are closer to the water, more money. But you're 10 minutes away from the water. It's not like you're 45 minutes away from the. Boca Raton is like not Miami. I don't recommend Miami for Armenians. I would say Fort Lauderdale, where we are right now, because Fort Lauderdale is like. To explain to you what Fort Lauderdale is like Santa Monica or like a Malibu is Fort Lauderdale, because I'm 50 minutes away from Newport, Palm Beach, 45 minutes away from Palm Beach, but I'm also 45 minutes away from the valley. Okay, so I can go either way. That's Fort Lauderdale, where we are right now. Yeah, but listen, you guys have to. Declare publicly that California and Newsom owns the Armenian community. What a great thing,
So
right?
what do you do, Pat? Let's say whenever DeSantis' term is up.
Well, I'm going to get a bunch of people slashing my tires. My insurance premium's going to go up. That's it.
Don't worry, it's already up there.
Go ahead.
What do you do, let's say 2 years from now, 4 years?
Yeah.
Whenever DeSantis'
Yeah.
term expires, he moves on, somebody else comes in, and all of a sudden, Florida transitions into left.
Florida's always been purple.
Right.
So what's purple? Left, right, whatever? Florida's always there. Now, let me give you the other parts. State taxes, 0. It's always been 0. under left, under right, under anybody. It's zero. You guys are paying that additional 13.5%, whatever you got, 13.3 that you're paying. On top of that, you got gas taxes. You got your stuff that there's only 2 states, I think, that insurance went up more than you guys. I think it's Minnesota and Missouri, I think.
Yes.
You guys were number 3, okay, and how much your auto insurance
Who
went
was
up.
the governor for Minnesota again?
Yeah.
Jesse
No.
Ventura.
Oh yeah, Jesse Ventura.
So meaning
Pedophile.
in every possible way for you, the reason why I like Texas is because of Southern hospitality. But I can't live in Texas long term.
How long did you live in Texas?
I lived in
for?
Texas for 5 years, so it's long enough to know what Texas was all about. And by the way, just so you know, every single one of my biggest players in my insurance company, every single one of them, Jose Marlene Gaitan, you know what high school he went to? Van Nuys High. He went to North Hollywood High. You know where Marlene went to? I think Marlene went to Van Nuys. Or Marlene could have also gone to North Hollywood High. You know where they live right now? Woodlands, Houston, Texas. George Palaio. George Palaio was from Palmdale, California, okay? He was always in Palmdale, California. Eventually had an office in Van Nuys, California. You know where he lives right now? Austin, Texas, okay? Rodolfo and Ceci Vargas. Rodolfo was from El Salvador. Rodolfo used to live in Palmdale, California, Lancaster. You know where Rodolfo lives right now? Houston, Texas. Jason was from Pasadena, and he was from Oxnard. You know where Jason lives right now? Dallas, Texas. Matt and Sheena Sapala used to live in Chicago, okay? Chicago is a crazy place to live.
Yeah.
You know where they live right now? Dallas, Texas. I moved every one of the players out of California. It's not the place to be, guys. Regulation-wise, do you want to go into the regulation stuff with the insurance stuff in California? You want to talk about real estate, what they're doing with homeowners insurance? Your state, California. So watch what's going on right now. In Florida, insurance companies who left Florida, do you know why they left Florida? Because of hurricanes.
Okay.
So some insurance companies are like, look, we looked at the cost and the risk of underwriting in the state of Florida. We're just not going to take the risk of hurricanes. No problem. That's why they left. So it's not like Florida's every state's going to offer you some kind of a weather. California's got earthquakes. Texas got hardcore tornadoes. Florida, you're dealing with hurricanes.
California's got the fire insurance now. I've had clientele where they've had to get separate fire insurance.
So
for
watch
the
this with
property.
California. So California thinks auto insurance companies are criminals. California makes insurance companies seem like they're the worst people in the world. California makes business owners seem like they're the worst people in the world. However, here's what happened. State Farm, Allstate, you got Nationwide, all these
Geico.
insurance companies that do homeowners insurance. Geico's auto insurance, but these guys are mainly homeowners insurance. Geico may do a little bit of homeowners, but it's mainly auto, right? But these homeowners insurance guys, okay, that are sitting there saying, your premium is this much. You know what percentage of loans don't get funded because when the buyer of the house finds out what their homeowner's insurance is, they're like, I can't afford to pay for it? 7%.
We've had to renegotiate deals because of that.
And by the way, and then you know what ends up happening with these guys? They go to the FAIRS Act, okay? Which FAIRS Act in the state of California forced these 7 insurance companies, for you to be able to do business in the state of California, if people don't get qualified, you have to agree to accept the insurance policy under FAIRS Act. It's your risk. You're underwriting it. You know how much that number is right now, dollar amount? It went up from $230 billion to $390 billion right now in California. By the way, I think it's State Farm that decided June of 2024, they just send letters to 30,000 homeowners in the state of California saying we're not renewing the homeowners insurance policy this year. We're not renewing this. So by the way, let me tell you what's going to happen. Auto insurance carriers are leaving. Homeowners insurance carriers are going to leave. They're eventually going to be like, hey, shareholders are going to say, why the F are we still in California? We lose on every single freaking policy. And they make it seem like we're bad people. Then your state has Kamala Harris, Nancy Pelosi, Newsom. That's their policies. Kamala Harris is sitting there talking about price gouging, and they want to put price controls for food, right? Not realizing supermarkets, Vons, Albertsons, Kroger's, Publix, you name it. Do you know what's the profit margin for these supermarkets? 1.6%. That means if a supermarket does $10 million in revenue, they only make $160,000. what the hell am I doing staying in the state of California?
How are they going to survive?
They're not going to survive. This is why restaurants are shutting down. This is why restaurants with food price controls, my margins are 3 to 5%. Why would I keep a restaurant? Restaurants don't make a lot of money. It's this they make a lot of money with. They don't make money off the food. They make the money off liquor. So why would I? So you're going to see now they're saying if you have this many employees, your minimum wage has to go this much. I mean, there's so many policies that's bad, one after another, that even if you sit there, you're like, well, let's do a recall. What percentage did he beat Larry Elder? 64, 67, ended up being 63%.
It was over 60%, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not like it was even a close call, and Larry was a good candidate.
See, does that go back to destroying the American dream? Because what's happening in Glendale, and I'm sure when was the last time you were in Glendale, actually? Let me ask you that question.
4 weeks ago, I was there for a Chase event. I was speaking at an event.
Glendale, instead of going out, is going up. They're just building high-rises one after the other. And now there's actually a new proposal for a property that's being built, 22 floors, I think.
Yeah.
22 floors right behind the Chase building off of the 134 freeway. They want to build residential buildings there for renters, studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms. That's it. And it's all for basically retail, rental, retail, rental. So what they're doing is they're trying to create a 15-minute city. They're creating bike lanes.
90 miles of bike lanes.
Yeah, 90 miles of bike lanes. They're getting people out of their cars, trying to get them to commute via bikes or by foot. They're taking away what I was mentioning to you earlier, the American dream of owning your own land, home ownership. And I don't even want to get into the conspiracy theory about BlackRock and all this stuff coming in and just swooping in.
Yeah, but why are Armenians staying in Glendale? Listen, for me, it's like the question, okay? How do you move? I got to move this person, I got to move that. First of all, then that means, what the hell did our grandparents move? First of all, guys, they moved from a country that spoke Armenian to a country that speaks English. And they did it twice because they went from Armenian to Spain to U.S., Armenia to Germany to U.S. And we're bitching about going from one state to another. It's the same damn language.
Yeah. Well, not only that.
It's not like you're like, oh my God, we're not going to, talking from Singapore. We're going to have to learn Mandarin. No, you go to freaking Florida. You don't have to speak Spanish in Florida. So sometimes it's like this new generation has turned it into such like what a big problem this is. No, it's not. By the way, Hollywood. Do you know before Hollywood was in Hollywood where Hollywood was in? New Jersey.
Yeah.
And do you know who owned Hollywood? Edison. But guess what happened with Hollywood? It was all controlled. All controlled. Creative people were sick and tired of working for Edison's film freaking industry. They're like, listen, man, time out. We're leaving Jersey. Screw this place. Let's go to Burbank. Can you give us some tax zones? Come on down. Go to Burbank. Boom. They've been there for 80 years since Edison was there. What happened? You just move and create a new community. Now what is Hollywood doing? By the way, Joe Rogan, where's the comedy hub of America today? Where's the comedy hub of America today? You got 2 places. New York, they're losing people. Where's the other one? Joe Rogan created it. Austin, Texas. Matt Rife, you know the comedian, the white boy, good-looking guy, the one that's gone viral?
Oh, yeah. The guy that's in shape.
Super in shape, good-looking, charming, likable.
Of course. You
know where he's from? He's from L.A. You know where he lives right now?
Don't tell me Texas.
Rhode Island.
Oh, he's in Rhode Island?
Out of all places. You know why?
Small
he says,
state in the
because I
United
spend the
States.
same amount of money to buy beautiful property. I'm 45 minutes away from the Boston comedy scene. Rhode Island has a decent comedy scene. And they asked him, they said, did you buy a house in California just to have a place here? He says, no, because my accountant said, if you buy a house in California, they will say you're a resident here and that's your vacation home. You'll pay California taxes. He says, I'm all Rhode Island. I don't want to buy a place here. People are leaving. Elon Musk, who was a liberal, you lost Elon Musk, you lost Joe Rogan, you lost so many people. You lost so many people that left the state.
Chevron is moving to Texas.
It's Chevron, Toyota. The list of people are, and by the way, here's what's going to happen. Okay, so you have realistically to all the wonderful Armenian friends of mine that are upset with me today. I love you so much, right? You have a few choices. What's a choice? Hey, do what the Jewish community does. Jewish community gets a lot of criticism. What's the criticism they get? They control this, Chemonum AIPAC this, AIPAC that. They own Hollywood, they own this, they own that. No problem. Why don't you do it, Armenians? Why don't you put your money where your mouth is? You can own California. They own the world. If you want to talk about they own all these other industries, you mean to tell me Armenians can't go play ball in the state of California? Why don't you go behind a candidate? Why don't you go put your money behind a candidate and find out who it is, bring them together and do something about it. But there's a big but. Here's what the but is. 2 states in the last 4 years have lost $1 trillion of money under management. $1 trillion of money under management. One is New York. The other is California. You know what's $1 trillion of money under management? Let's just say you have $1 million with your Morgan Stanley advisor, okay? To take $1 million to tell you what $1 trillion is, let's kind of do the math to tell you how many people with $1 million, okay, that's a lot of money to have. Watch this. Yeah. Let's just do it. So 1 trillion, each count zero. It's, that's a billion, right? Yeah, so let's keep going. Okay, divided by 1 million. 1 million people with $1 million left the state of California. Now I'm just giving you the hypothetical, the numbers. California lost $1 trillion of money under management. Here's a question you got to ask yourself. Who left? Who left? The people that like entitlement programs or the people that want to be left alone? Who do you think left? You think the job creators left or the complainers left? Who do you think? You think the people that want more entitlement programs or the people that are going out there saying any economy would take me? That's who California lost. Yeah. That's who California lost. So for me, this idea of sitting there, and Mark Wahlberg moved where? Nevada. Dana White is like, listen, man, Vegas is, I love this place. I will never live anywhere else. He moved to Nevada, and he made Nevada his hub on what happened with fighting UFC.
He considers it his hometown.
And by the way, he runs the city. He is the king of. So a lot of people name can be dropped, but Dana is a guy that when you go to Vegas, Dana's there. Dana gets anything he wants, not anything he wants, but you understand what I'm saying to you.
Majority of the things.
But the point I'm making to you right now is, you know, I had a lady, very successful Syrian lady, comes to the house because the Syrian convention was this past weekend in Orlando. So she comes to the house. We have a very good meeting. It's me, my dad, and my wife. And she gets there early, so her and my dad are talking. He's a Syrian. She's a Syrian. Great conversations. And then Jen shows up. Sam shows up. I show up. We sit down. We talk. Well, you know, a lot of people in the Syrian community want to know what your plans are with the Syrian community. Great conversation. I said, hey, I just wrote a book called The Academy. The main character's name is Asher Yonan. His father's name is Odishu, who's a Syrian, and his mother is an Armenian mother. And this guy gets recruited to a secret society. It's got a lot to do about the Persian Empire, what happened with the Shah. It's got a lot to do with Assyrians. It's got a lot to do with Armenians. You may want to read this book to see what my vision is. However, here's what I said. I said, if you're here because you're asking me for a few $1 million of donation to this, to that, to this, I'm not interested. I'm not part of that community. I said, number 2, I want nothing from Assyrians. I don't want Assyrians to buy merch from me. I don't want them to do consulting with me. I don't want to take anything from Assyrians. So I'm not trying to make money off the Assyrian community. The same was with Armenians. I'm not trying to make money off Armenians. I'm not trying to do anything with Armenians. But this is what I told. I said, if the Assyrian community wants to do something big over the next 20 to 40 years for eventually having their country back, that invented all these incredible things like the calendar, libraries, all these things that we use today that Assyrians invented, I'm interested in that. Anything aside from that, just consider me a regular guy, nothing more, nothing less. Armenians have to make a decision what they're going to do in the state of California because California doesn't respect your values. They don't. They don't care what you think. And this isn't me telling you this. It's simply what kind of policies they're coming up with. So either you have to sit there, and you know how some people like to be abused? You know how certain wives, you know, husband can hit them with a baseball bat and they'll never leave them? There's a little bit of that going on with Armenians. Maybe Armenians are like masochists.
Thanks,
like,
Pat.
you know, they can do everything to you, will never leave them. Because that's what California is doing to you. Left and right, they're doing that to you.
We look at it as fighting back against the system.
Oh, then go back to Russia.
No, why would you
fight back against the system? Fight back against the system. Go back to Russia.
He doesn't speak Russian, that's why.
No, but go back to Iran. You should go back to Iran. Let's go fight back Iran. We should do that.
I get what you're saying with that. I completely understand.
So, but our families, are you glad our families left Iran?
Absolutely.
Are you glad our families left Armenia? Are you glad our families left Russia? That was harder, guys.
They left for, obviously, an opportunity. The opportunity, you have the opportunity in California. Obviously, being an employer in California is by far the worst anywhere in the world. But you have an opportunity in California to be successful, to make money, to good, proper education and all that. So the move is different from Armenia to.
But what I would say to you is what they did was hard, very hard. They made our parents. What they did was very hard.
Yeah.
What?
This is like a amateur small
I think
little
Pat
move.
wants to hire us. That's why he's
Possibly. See, going back to what Pat was saying earlier.
By the
as far
way-
as far as the Jewish community,
Yeah.
going really back. I had a Jewish professor back in college. Jewish professor back in college. He mentioned one thing to me. He said, "Listen," he goes, "if the Armenian community was very similar to the Jewish community as far as backing each other up, you guys would surpass us."
Yeah.
He goes, "The problem is this: when a Jew opens up a shoe store, another Jew will come in and he'll open up another clothing store, whether it's shirts, pants, whatever. Then another
Something
one
to
will come in.
complement it.
Yeah, something will
Yeah.
come in. They'll open up a tailor shop." He goes, "With the Armenians, it's the opposite. When an Armenian opens up a shoe store, he sees, oh, you know what, this guy's successful. He's selling a bunch of shoes. Let me go open up another shoe store next to him. Another one will come in. Let me open up, and then eventually, what do? They collapse."
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest issues we have as the Armenian community.
Can I do one thing?
Go ahead.
Can I jump on the Zoom with property we're trying to buy? Let me do this. Give me 10 minutes. I'll come back here. I'm just going to sit over
take a
there.
bathroom break?
Yeah, it's fine. Just give me 10 minutes. I'll come back here and then my. He's rolling.
We're rolling? All right. So we talk about leaving California.
Yep.
We talk about moving to possibly a red state, purple
Yep.
state, doesn't matter what it is. Let me ask you this, because you mentioned something about us leaving Cali to another state.
Yep.
And you were like, oh, you know what? Why don't you go back to Iran? Why don't you go back to Russia? And we mentioned that, you know what? We're there to fight the fight. Have you, and this came from actually one of our viewers, he asked us to ask you this, but have you ever thought about possibly coming back to Cali and running for an official position? Because you mentioned Newsom a lot, right? Why not come in, especially somebody of your caliber, somebody of your experience, somebody with your stature, come in and go headfirst into the storm?
Great question. So, Mario, right before we left California, I had a meeting with a few political people in California, names you would know. And it was behind the scenes meeting because I was involved in some communities. And at the time, 2000, when did we leave California? Was it 15 or 16? 16. February 1st of 16 is when we left, okay? So 15 is how many years ago? 9 years ago? 9 years ago, I'm 36 years old. And my idea was, I'm going to run for office eventually, California governor. I'm going to stick around, okay? Then I kind of sat around and started weighing everything out on what was more important to me. Was it important to me to be a governor of California or other things? I have no interest in being a governor of any state. Not here, not California. At the time, I did. And when I was even younger than that, I did. I think there's plenty of guys that are capable of wanting to do it. I don't have interest in that. We're gonna build our media company and our consulting firm, and we do a lot of stuff for candidates behind closed doors. That's not public. We talk to a lot of people behind closed doors on the political side. But no, I have no interest in going back to California. When I went to California a month ago, and we're driving around and we went to Universal, I know the freeway so well. Like I go by, every time I go to Glendale, I go by my high school, Nitros. I went to Mr. Woods, who was my math class, and Mr. Panosian and Miss Tiffany and all of these guys. Even in the fiction book that I wrote, the principal's name in my book, you ready what the principal's name is in the book? Mr. Lamas. Mr. Lamas from Wilson Junior High School. I don't know if you remember Mr. Lamas, who used to give everybody referrals in Glendale and all this other stuff. But no, I love California. People don't realize how emotionally I love that state. I have great memories in that state. When I was there, we were always having lunch and dinner together. We would always go out and have a good time at Fleming's, or we'd go to these different restaurants. And that stopped the moment I went there. My favorite pastor in the world is in California. My favorite restaurant in the States is in California. My favorite friends that outside of people I'm in business with are in California. But sometimes in life, you got to take the leap of faith and lead, and then show everybody else the way. And then everybody else can sit there and say, what is our excuse? What are we doing? Because the reality of it is we can take our community, move anywhere. We're a very valuable community. Armenians are a very, very valuable community. Are you kidding me? The value, any city we go to, we're good people. We create jobs, we do good, we raise good kids, we do our best, it matters to us, we fear God. You know, We have a few stragglers, Armenians. I'm not going to sit there and say everybody walks on water. There's some of them that are problematic, but that comes with the territory. But any city would love to take Armenians. Any state would love to take Armenians. And I think Texas would welcome them. I think Florida would welcome you. I chose Florida because I lived 24 years in California, minus my 2.5 years in the military. I lived 5 years in Texas, and I live now 3.5 years here. California and Texas, if they had a baby, it's Florida. I love it here. When I tell you I'm in love, I'm in love. By the way, if I want to go to Spain, 7-8 hour flight. If I want to go to New York to go Yankees game, boom. If I want to go to Hamptons, our time in Hamptons, I can't even describe to you how much fun we had in Hamptons. So here you go up. Bahamas is a 45-minute flight. Boom, you go there, come back. If you're in California, you want to go to Hawaii, 5.5 hour flight. I don't have the patience for a 5.5 hour flight to go to Hawaii and come back. What the hell am I going to do there? Here, Bahamas, 45 minutes. Go, boom, 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 boom. Great time. Go over here, snorkel in there, come back. 3 hours, New York. 2.5 hours, Hamptons. I mean, it's a beautiful. And then you want to go to Europe. What are you going to do if you're in California? What are you going to do going west? Aside from Hawaii, you're going to go to Catalina Island? Is that what you're going to do? Yeah. Let's go to Catalina Island, right? You go to Hawaii, how much more are you going there? But here, Spain, UK, Italy, this way is plenty to do.
How far
that
is
way,
Greece from here?
8 hours.
All right, I'm sold.
So you know what's funny?
8 hours, 9 hours.
As we were flying here,
Yeah.
as I was telling Vic, he was sitting next to me. I was like, it's 4.5 hour flight into Florida. I'm like, could you imagine if we were going to Europe? We have to be on the plane for another 5-6 hours. He's absolutely right, bro. Location wise, you're in a phenomenal location.
Where are you in the sold meter right now, as far as Florida goes?
Where am I?
Are you at 40%?
It's the weather. How long did it take you to adjust to the weather?
Immediately. Yeah, my family's from Bandar Pahlavi. I don't know if you know Bandar Pahlavi. Are you Parskahay or Yerevan?
I'm half Beiruti.
Okay, so this what a great dynamic. So is your family Parskahay?
Yes.
Okay,
my parents are from Iran.
Were you born there or were you born here?
I was born in Armenia. My parents left before the revolution.
That's right. You said that in your intro. You kind of briefly covered that. So so my mother's side, Boghosian family, they're from Bandar Pahlavi, and that is North Iran by Rasht. Bandar Pahlavi is by Caspian Sea, so it was super humid, and it was very hot and humid, and I love it. So when Mario and I would come here, and it was like super humid, I'm like, oh my God, this is taking me back to great memories of being in freaking Bandar Pahlavi. And I would go see my grandfather, my mom's dad, and he would make watermelon and cheese, and we'd sit there, and my uncle, who was a hardcore party animal, playboy, God bless his soul, he's no longer with us. He would wake me up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Patrick, Ari Javier, and we would sit there and we would eat this caviar. Oh my God. With spoon, bro, not the small ghetto spoon. The big ass spoon, the shovel. He would eat it like this. I'm like, this guy, like that, right? And then to me, when we moved here, Mario said, my dream is one day to live in Miami. And we went to Breakers Hotel. Every Armenian, come here, stay at Breakers Hotel for a few days at Palm Beach, okay? Then go to Flagler's Restaurant. Then go to Meat Market. Then go see where John F. Kennedy used to go to church. Then go see all the people who had their vacation homes here. Then go find out what the Manalapan looks like, or all these all these other cities around. Then maybe if you like horses, go this way and go to Wellington and see what King's Academy, one of the best Christian schools in all of America, looks like at Wellington. Horses, kids are learning how to go, dealing with, horseback riding, whatever you want to be doing. It's just, it's a beautiful climate. But we went to Breakers Hotel, and I looked at the hotel, and it was like our 4th or 5th time we went to Breakers. And I said, babe, we're moving to Florida. She says, you're joking. I said, nope. Went back. Mario, how long did you guys have to pack? Maybe less than a week. I said, we're moving to Florida. You have 4 weeks. He says, you're joking. I said, call everybody in. I left PHP in Dallas. I said, we're moving to Florida. 4 weeks later, we're in Florida. The decision was made like this.
Instantaneously.
You can ask my wife, Mario, the people that are closest to me. I said, we're out.
My concern is this. From moving from one state to another state, you practically have a soul on it. Don't get me wrong. But at the same time, going back to what I was mentioning about politicians going up the stepping ladder, right? You had Newsom, who was the governor, who's now the governor of California. He was the mayor in San Francisco. Completely screwed up San Francisco. Turned it into a drug-free. By drug-free, I don't mean drug-free, but I mean free drugs. Handing out needles left and right. You had Kamala Harris, who was also a senator there. Kamala Harris.
Please.
I'm sorry, Kamala Harris.
Pronounce
Kamala
your
Harris.
future president's name properly.
Hey.
God forbid.
Now, the trajectory is people are talking about Newsom possibly running in 2028. I'm not even talking about Kamala Harris right now or Kamala Harris right now. But what if somebody of that caliber, a Kamala Harris or a Newsom, becomes president? And all these policies that they're talking about, well, not their policies, because Kamala Harris can't even write a policy. She's just a puppet there. But the left-wing policies that they're trying to implement and they're trying to push down our throats, you don't think that'll reach Florida?
No. And by the way, the part you have to ask yourself is who left your state? Think about it. Who left New York? And who moved to your state? So people who want entitlement programs move to great state of California. It's a great state to be. You want a lot of entitlement programs, go to New York. If you don't want entitlement programs and you want to go make your own money on your own, come to Texas, come to Florida. So what types of people are moving to these states? Florida flipped. It used to be a Democratic state. Then it became purple. Now it's more Republican than independent. Yeah. It's more Republican now, more conservative now because of the types of people that moved here. Palm Beach, filled with conservatives. Boca, filled with conservatives. Miami, liberal because it's Cuban, some of that stuff that's there. But Venezuelans are conservatives. They're not, what you think they are. Most Cubans love America. Cubans don't like what happened to their country. They understand, just like many Armenians that came from Russia, they know what that was like. So the people that are moving here are those types of people. That's the difference. Now, can something happen long-term for it? Sure. But even if it does, okay, let's just kind of go through the process, even if it does. Texas and Florida, Nevada, they've had a lot of weird politicians have come and gone.
Correct.
They still have zero state taxes.
Yes.
That doesn't matter who's in. It's part of the constitution of the state, for the most part.
Look what's happening to Texas. Look what's happening to the center of Texas, where Austin, Texas is. How many people from California have moved into Austin, and Austin's become somewhat left-leaning?
No, Austin is left-leaning.
So
was
Austin left-leaning?
No, but every state is going to have that. Like we have that as well in Miami. Your San Francisco is Texas's Austin, and we have it here as well. We have our own cities here as well.
Austin becomes like San Francisco. San Francisco's a shithole at this
Have you ever been to Austin to see the homelessness problem in Austin?
I haven't been to Austin, Texas. I have a client who lives in Austin.
He says,
stop bringing your California bullshit to Texas.
It's a lot of, but Dallas is not Austin, and Houston is not Austin. Anywhere where arts are going to be at, you're going to have some of that
stuff. But it's like a cancer that's spreading. Pat.
Totally get it, but they're going to move to create. I mean, every state's going to have their art side. Like you guys got 2 kids. I got 4 kids, right? What am I going to do if one of my kids likes art? Am I going to say, don't follow art? No. If there's going to be a part of people that are fully right-brain creative, that they're just wired in a different way, right? Where reason is not high for them. Okay, and then you got people that are math and numbers, logic, reason. Those people are moving to Texas and Florida. The people that are not, the emotional, the feeling, the LGBTQ, the puberty blockers, they're moving to your state. It's a fantastic state for people like that, okay? We don't want that. We just don't want that. That's why we're here. I would say, Texas will be on that list. Here's will be on that list. I'd put Tennessee on that list. There's a lot of people moving to Tennessee right now. Tennessee's a great place to be at. Arthur Laffer, who's all about lowest taxes, he wrote the Laffer Curve. He moved to Tennessee, and he's the guy that Tennessee right now is all in the lowest taxes in America. And depending on how you do the math, most of the time they're number 1 lowest taxes. California on the 50 list is the worst state in taxes. And it's generally always been like that for years.
Yeah, it's a left-leaning state, which is give, and what will we give you back? We'll give you.
And by the way, let's go through it. Let's go worst case, okay? Let's go two different cases, because let me give this so all of a sudden 100,000 Armenians move here. They're not going to come and make all these, hey, it's all your fault, all this stuff. Let me give you both of them. You ready? Okay. So let's go California. Let's go Florida. With everybody that's left the state of California, all the $1 trillion of money under management, the lowest net migration, first ever that California lost people since 1851. It's never happened. It happened in 2020, 2021, 2022. Negative net migration, people leaving your state.
Yes.
It's never happened to California since it became a state in 1851, okay? All right. So what's more likely to happen? How long before California, what's the likelihood of California eliminating their state taxes, eliminating their gas taxes, eliminating their LGBTQ policies that they have, the San Francisco, Hollywood, all that, eliminating all the stuff that they're doing with schooling. Hey, if your kid wants to go through a transition, they don't need to tell the parents about it. What's the likelihood of all of that happening in California, and how long could that take? Give me a number. Let's be optimistic. How long?
That is a question that's practically impossible to answer in today's society.
But if it does, give me a number. 20 years?
I think more than that.
Okay, let's be friendly. 20 years. Cool?
I know where you're going with this.
Well, hang on. Wait a minute here. How old are you going to be in 20 years?
Exactly.
How old are your kids going to be in 20 years?
Exactly my point.
So, gnaster. Spasi. Mindset. Okay, go here. All right? What's the likelihood and how long will it take for the state of Florida to have a 13.3% state taxes, to have additional gas taxes, to flip on parenting and LGBTQ, to have all this other nonsense regulation that they add? How long until this flips to that? Can we say 20 plus years?
Easily.
Okay. So what's important for you? The 40 years and risking that, or knowing at least 20 years you're going to be safe here?
Right there.
Because if in 20 years, if this flips, you're always going to be in demand in other places. There's always going to be a demand for you. But if the conservative people, the family-friendly people of the Armenians move here, leave the Armenian liberals in Glendale. Don't bring them. Stay over there. Why would you come here? They're not going to come anyways. By the way, they're not going to come anyways. They can't stand Florida. The Armenian liberals hate Florida. Try convincing them to come here. Look what they'll say. You want me to go to Florida? Don't you ever hear about the man in Florida? You're right, sweetheart. Stay in Glendale. Stay in Glendale and do what you know. Wear your proud, pride flag on your house and your car, and get that tattooed on your. Whatever you want to do, go do it. More power to you. You guys stay. But to the person who's Armenian, who values family, who fears God, who wants God's favor, okay, who wants to favor God, who wants to raise their kids in a decent environment, be in a place that maybe you want to be the leader of everybody else, that if you want to move your kids here, you want to go to Yankees game, you want to go to Miami game, you want to go to Bahamas, you want to see what the lifestyle looks like here, Disney World, Universal, what else do you want? You got it all here, okay? Florida's going to offer that to you. You have to make that decision based on this. I'm simply not patient enough to wait for California to flip for 20 years. I don't have that kind of patience. Maybe you guys are more patient than me. I got to applaud you guys. Very patient Armenians. Some of the most patient Armenians I've met in my life. You guys are ridiculous. I admire you for your level of patience.
In all fairness, I'm probably the only one here that has a house out of state in Texas. Well, that's why I was pointing when you said
Wisenuts. So you're flirting with it. You're flirting.
Yeah, flirting with the idea.
Well,
I'm open to that idea.
Tuesday, you guys have an interesting podcast that's going to be taking place. Trump and Harris will be debating for the first time. You guys are going to be watching it live, as will we. We're going to be giving our insight on it. The Trump and Biden debate that took place a couple weeks back, total tragic disaster on the Biden administration, that is. You had a president who was completely being backed by his Democratic Party, and then all of a sudden, overnight, literally overnight, you had a coup that removed him and said, you know what, he's no longer mentally fit to be president. Who are we going to be putting in? Who are we going to be putting in? I think Kamala Harris would be the right choice. Mind you, this is a woman who was least favored to win the Democratic position back in 2026 or back in 2020 when she was running as a Democrat. What are your thoughts about Kamala Harris? Sorry, you almost caught me there. Kamala Harris and the Trump debate come Tuesday.
I think she wanted to be allowed to interrupt, and ABC said no, because if you go back and watch her debate with Mike Pence, she has a habit of doing one thing. Excuse me, I'm speaking. Thank you. I'm speaking. And she does this, and you're like, oh my God, you remember principles like that.
Yep.
You remember aunts like that.
Passive aggressive, yeah.
You remember girls you dated like that.
It's the attorney in her.
And you know, like, you don't look forward to a second date. You don't look forward to going and seeing that aunt. I have an aunt like that. I haven't wanted to see her for 20, 30 years. I've never wanted to see her. Everybody knows in my family. I don't care to be around that aunt. Because like, you know, that attitude that they're smarter than you and because they got a fancy degree and whatever. Yeah, no one's attracted to that. It's very unattractive. This isn't about Kamala versus Trump. This is about those who fear Trump being in office, that they will take a 6-year-old to be a president over Trump. People are getting it too twisted. Kamala, they don't care about Kamala. You think they care about Kamala? Like, you know, George Clooney. So, hey, the op-ed you wrote about Biden stepping out, what do you think about the impact of that op-ed you had? Him and Brad Pitt are doing whatever for a movie. It's like, you know, no one's asked me that question, but I guess it's proper for me to address, and I may as well do it right now. I think what we need to be thinking about and considering is the fact that this may be one of the most selfless moves a president has ever made since George Washington. And he says it with a straight look on his face. That's why he's an award-winning actor. He's comparing Joe Biden to George Washington. There's nothing those two have in common other than they were both presidents, right?
Well, Nancy Pelosi said he belongs on Mount Rushmore next to George Washington.
But Nancy Pelosi is also the one that got him to step down because she's a boss. If there's one thing, when Nancy gives a call, everybody shivers. Nancy is she runs.
Pat, how do you go from calling one person, he's as sharp as can be, he's focused?
It's politics. This game is the nastiest game. This is the nastiest game. Nastiest game, man. And a part, like one time I had Ari Fleischer on the podcast. Ari Fleischer, is that his name? Ari, I think he was the press secretary for George Bush. And when 9/11 happened. So this guy was on TV every day, nonstop. If you see his face, you know who he is. I said, why politics? He could have been a lawyer. Why interest? He says, are you kidding me? He says, it's the greatest sport in the world. I said, how is this the greatest sport in the world? He says, because there is no, hey, you do this, you score 6 points, touchdown. You make a 3, you get 3. It's whoever can sell the ideas better. What sport is better than that? I'm sitting and listening to him. This motherfucker, you know, he's selling politics in a way where it is a sport if you think about it, right? And it's a very, it's a dirty, dirty sport. So you're either turned on by it and you want to do something with it, or you're like, I want to have nothing. And by the way, I understand both parties. To me, I love competition. I love debate. I love sequencing. I love strategy. I love seeing who's got stamina. I love seeing who performs on camera. All of that to me is like porn to a 16-year-old boy. I watch that, and to me it's like, look at the freaking strategy on the debate just took place here right now. Look what John F. Kennedy did to beat Nixon. Look what Reagan did to go up against the guy who was saying he's too old. Look at what Bill Clinton did to beat George Bush Sr. when he looked at his watch like this, when the African-American man is asking about. Look at the moment where Trump said, because you'd be in jail. Are you kidding? Like, this is such a beautiful game, okay? It's just flipping fascinating, right? So you either love it or you don't, but as an industry, 24 years ago in 2000, the entire money spent on presidential election in 2000 was $300 million. You know what's estimated to be the amount spent this year in 2024? $10 billion.
Trump raised $300 million in a matter of, how many hours was it?
Within 24 hours.
It's going to go from $300 million to $10 billion, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of that because I think that's where a lot of the money people then end up controlling these candidates. I would love to take lobbying out, because it's when it becomes pay for play and, yeah, we're going to tax the rich. No, you're not. You took money from the rich. So, but then you wink, say, hey, guys, listen, you guys know I have to play the game. I'm going to go on stage and convince these poor people in middle America that we're going to tax the rich. Of course, I'm not going to tax you guys. I'm going to just say we couldn't get it done, but I got to. So don't get upset when I say this. We're going to tax all these billionaires. Can I get $100 million? Yeah. We're going to tax these billionaires. Hey, you better give us that, law that we need to change to make it harder for the smaller guys to compete with us, because there's a company that's coming up. We'll give you another $100 million, but you better pass that along, put those guys out of business. Oh, no problem. We're going to tax these billionaires. That's the game.
Sounds like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders in the beginning was, we're going to tax the millionaires. And then when he became a millionaire, now we're going to tax the billionaires.
Yeah.
And then it goes back. It goes back to sticking his hand out and saying,
but it's
what can I have?
But, I mean, look, we're coming to the end of the podcast, but if you're somebody that you believe in God, okay, you have faith, you trust your ability to work hard and treat people well and find a way to get your own niche and, go out there and not feel like you're a victim or helpless, or like, for example, you know how California treats you guys? I want to go back to it because I haven't talked about it enough.
California, man.
Now, you know what it is? you know what it is? It's like if somebody you're dating doesn't appreciate you and you stay with them, they're going to keep doing it to you.
Abusive relationship.
Yeah, it's an abusive relationship.
You go back to
But by the way, here's the part. Like, I remember, like, hey, man, I'd love to get close to that guy and maybe one day do a podcast with him. And all of a sudden, like, he really doesn't like what we do. Wow, never thought that. Okay, cool. Guess what? It's not taking it personal. It's just like, cool. You move on. Hey, I'd love to be in business with that guy and raise money with that guy. He doesn't want to give you money. No problem. Let's move on. Hey, I wish we had politicians that were doing, they're not listening to what you're saying. They're going to do what? Great. No problem. But it's the part where it's like, but it's not fair. And why don't they, boom. Bro, you're not a helpless person. You're a leader. Make a flipping decision. Either sit there and don't do anything about it and stop bitching, or identify your next 5, 10, 15 moves. In our environment, like when Dylan's like, I think that's unfair. I swear to God, if I hear it one more time, bro, you want to be this soccer player, you want to say unfair? Well, you think life is fair? What do you think happens with life? What's your next 10 moves? Identify your next 10 moves. Let's go execute that. What is your 10 moves? And so I remember like when I knew there was something going on with Dylan that I liked, his coach kept benching him. He'd score 2 goals. Coach would bench him second half. So I'm on the sidelines, and I'm like, babe, I swear to God, babe. And she's like, babe, please don't make a scene. I said, babe, I'm going to go talk to the guy, babe. She said, now, talk him, yes, che? He comes, sits in the car. How you doing? Good. So why do you think the coach benched you in the second half? How did you feel about it? He's probably trying to tell me that I should get better. I made one mistake that I should get better. I would say, good for you. See, that was a very good filtering mode to see he's not saying it's unfair. He's like, no, I made 2 mistakes, and I think he's trying to tell me to improve. I'm going to get better in that area. You'll see. Got it, buddy. The Smith's like, I'm building an insurance company, or I'm building a consulting firm, and there's always this group that always wants to say it's unfair. And then the other side is like, no, Pat's trying to give a message to me. He wants us to improve in this area. Those guys eventually run the company, not these guys. These guys, they're dime a dozen. They're everywhere. These guys, they're leaders amongst leaders. That's the mindset we have to lean. The parents and people that came before us, they made some tough decisions. Real tough decisions.
Absolutely.
Painful, embarrassing, humiliating. Going from being people that they go in local restaurants and whatever, and everybody knew them, to Wednesday, Gilligan's Island. We can't, what are you, a phobe? You're fresh off the boat. Nobody talks like that. Take your Michael Jackson shirt off. Nobody wears no Michael Jackson. Look at this Armo.
Yeah.
Connie thought we were embarrassed for the way we spoke and all. That's hard. You know what I'm saying? That's challenging. And they don't speak, and they would go places and they would laugh at our parents when they spoke in a funny way. That's difficult. We ain't doing nothing that's difficult. What we're doing is first grade. What they did is like hardcore professional challenges, and we're grateful for that. Because to be publicly humiliated, and you in your gut, you're like, I hope I'm making the right decision for my kids. I hope I'm making the right decision for my kids. I hope I'm making the right decision for them. My dad was in a hospital at UCLA Medical Center, and I'm going to clubs 6 days a week, Double Ends, Chamonix, Saddle Ranch, and Palace, and back in the days was Arena, or Key Club, or Garden of Eden, and my dad's about to die in freaking UCLA Medical Center. I'm like, the hell are you doing, bro? What are you doing? This guy freaking embarrassed himself coming to the States, working at a 99-cent store. He was making $100,000 to man a month. He was the man in Iran. He's not working at a 99-cent store in freaking Inglewood, and you're lollygagging? Get your act together, bro. It's embarrassing. Every day in his life, he's begging to asking God, please tell me I made the right decision to sacrifice all my friends and relationships and places I knew in Iran and to come here. God, please tell me I made the right decision. It's our job to tell him, you made the right decision, bro. You're good. Trust me. Thank you for making this decision. We have to do that. And one day in 40 years, they're going to have to say that. No, leadership is not an easy job. It's a tough game because you could be wrong and you have to make the decisions right. And I think we have to look at it more from that lens than the lens of what if this and what if that. Yeah, I get it. There's a lot of what ifs.
You had a story back in the day where I think it was an aha moment for you, where your father, yourself, you were at a Christmas party and something happened at that Christmas party that kind of triggered you to snap out. And
yeah.
I think, was that your aha moment in life?
It's probably one of them where you know, I wrote about it in the book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely.
Yes.
One of our Syrian relatives offended my dad in front of me and was condescending to him like, it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen anymore. And it was a big driver for me. My dad's a very good man. He's a very, very good man. And he's a simple man, very good man. He's never made a promise that he didn't keep to me ever. So to me, I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's not going to happen. And the world's going to know your last name, and you're going to go places, and I'm going to talk about how great of a father you are. Everywhere you go, they're going to stop you, and they're going to tell you, are you the son? You know how many times he talks about you? You know how much he loves you? Yes. You can do that for the rest of your life. No problem. Let's go. I'll take up that challenge, and then boom. You know, and that mindset is shaped into my kids' mindset. And I say, hey, you know, you have your grandfather's first name is your middle name. You know that, right? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with this last name? What are you going to do with the heritage that you come from? What are you going to do about it? What's next for you? I mean, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, where, you know how you talk about like everything we do for our kids and we do for all this stuff. I think a lot of it we also do for our heritage and people that came before us. I want to make sure they know they made the right decision. My parents got a divorce over coming to America. I mean, you think it was easy for my mom freaking living in Glendale and welfare and living in Germany at a refugee camp while they're going through a divorce for a second time? Nah, they made a lot of sacrifices. Life was very hard for them afterwards. No, we're going to make it right.
Well, hopefully with your children, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Well, you listen, we'll find out if we're doing a decent job parenting in 30, 40 years. It's going to take 40 years to find out. By the time I find out if I'm a good parent, I'm in my 80s. I'm not going to know if I'm a good parent until my age starts with 8, not even 7. Because by the time, say I'm 80, 35 years, Dylan's going to be 45. So he will, God willing, have a 15-year-old kid or a 20-year-old kid, and we'll see what kind of a kid he is. Tico will have 15 or 20-year-old kid. We'll see that. We're going to see. Like, you know, you're only a great parent when your grandkids are good citizens. We got some work to do.
Yeah, but your kids are seeing one thing, and I promise you and I guarantee you they'll do the same thing. They'll reciprocate the same thing to you. Your father lives with you. He's
Absolutely.
By your side.
Oh, yeah.
That is probably one of the greatest gifts you've given your father, to be by his side at his age. And your children seeing that, they're going to reciprocate it. Because as I mentioned, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
We're going to see. We're going to see.
Especially your daughter.
Yeah, we're gonna see. We're gonna see what they do. I'm close to all four of them. We have a very unique relationship with all four of them, but none of this would be possible without the, man upstairs. And he's changed my life in a big way. And we got a very good supporting cast around us. But God willing, listen, as long as we fear Him and we seek His favor, vice versa, it'll work out. If we're seeking, I don't want to. A lot of you guys are seeking Newsom's favor in the state of California. But as long as we're seeking, God's favor and we do our part, future will look bright. Next time wear a different shirt. Why are you wearing a Reagan Bush shirt? You wear like
Is there something wrong with Reagan
you
and
could
Bush?
you could wear like a Newsom, Kamala Newsom. You know what I mean? Like
Maybe it's a rainbow shirt.
Mario. Maybe we need to make some shirts and send them their way, like a gift. Matter of fact, we should make a custom shirt and send it your way.
Well, speaking of gifts,
we got a gift for you, custom gift for you.
Oh man,
From the man himself, Newsom, actually.
is that what it is? I love it. I wouldn't be surprised.
it comes fully vaccinated.
Seriously.
You guys
What
are.
do we get for, Pat, you got everything. You own the Yankees now, minority owner. So we thought, what better than a
Nardi?
custom made, handmade from Armenia?
With
Do you have one of these or no?
This is great, man. I love it. Oh wow.
That's hand carved.
Oh, that's sick.
Now-
The real gift is inside.
Open it.
just be careful. Those
Be very cautious, Pat. That's handmade.
Okay.
Don't break
Is
it.
something gonna fall? I don't. Let me see if
nothing
nothing.
gonna fall out. Just kind of pop it open.
Oh, okay. I see it.
Then we've got your
That's sick.
logo.
Valuetainment right in the middle.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You know what we may do? What if we put like a backgammon tournament? And Armenians have a lot of pride in how good they are, right?
They'll move out here for the
But
backgammon.
listen, I don't know if you've played people that are half Armenian, half Assyrian in backgammon. They're a little bit different. They're strategic. So maybe one of these days we put a backgammon tournament. This is sick, guys. Thank you for this. This is insane. I appreciate you guys for bringing this out. No, I'm glad we finally were able to do this. Excited about what you guys are doing and looking forward to, you guys getting the voice even bigger and bigger. I know right now you were telling me the numbers with Spotify and podcast, 70,000 listeners, number one American Armenian podcast. It's sick what you guys have done. And hopefully this is just the beginning. When you guys continue, I think I am a little concerned. I'm a little concerned.
Regarding
If you guys move to Florida, you may lose some of your Armenian liberal followership that listen to your podcast, and that's deeply concerning. If
you sure
don't.
you want competition here? Come on, man.
oh, jeez.
Well, one thing about here, man, people in Florida have a lot of pride of being in Florida. It's a different kind of a pride because I'm not Floridian. I live here now, but we're here because of the similar values that we have. And there's a lot of, people collaborate with each other a lot here. But Dana White comes to Florida, Miami. They do their event last year. They asked him the question after the fight, what was, the UFC fight in Miami? He says, record-breaking gate, more than Madison Square Garden. He says, I can't believe what happened last night. He says, this is what LA was 10 years ago. I've never seen anything like this. Dana White.
Wow.
UFC, you come down here when he has a UFC here?
Yeah,
It's craziness when they do it
It's
here.
insanity.
But thank you for this, guy. This was amazing. Appreciate you guys.
Well, Pat, we appreciate you. We appreciate everything you do. We thank you for taking time, and we thank Mario as well, the entire Valuetainment team, for taking time to actually sit down with us. I hope it was what you were expecting, because it was very genuine for us to kind of sit down and just
Very
shoot the shit
natural,
with
yeah.
you, because that's what we were
Nostalgic,
expecting.
I enjoyed it. This was great.
And your cigar lounge is beautiful.
Thank you.
And we hope when you do come out to
Glendale.
liberal LA, you join us at our cigar lounge at the Glen Arden, where the boys hooked us up there as well.
Fantastic. I look forward to it. But this was great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate everybody that has sat down and watched this amazing podcast with the man himself. Please like, comment, subscribe, hit that like button. It doesn't take too much trouble. Literally just move that mouse, click the like, the subscribe. Thank you so much again. We'll see you guys all next week. And this episode will be up and running on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all major platforms mañana. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. And we'll see you guys all next week.
Take care.